I'm gonna call to order this meeting of Santa Fe County Canvassing Board. It is 2:01, can I have a roll call?
Yes.
Do I need a roll call?
Chair Hamilton,
I'm here.
Commissioner Roy Ball.
I just saw him in the hallway.
That doesn't count.
He's here. in a
Almost
meeting.
here.
Commissioner Moreno.
Present.
Commissioner Garcia.
And he also had been around, so I know he's here somewhere.
Commissioner Hanson.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I would entertain a motion to convene as the canvassing board.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
I move to convene the canvassing board.
Can I have a second? Thank you. I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're convened as the canvassing board. Geraldine, do you have?
Yes, I would like Steve and Teresa to present to you.
Thank you.
They've worked very hard. They had to work Saturday and yesterday. We were at
Thank you.
the warehouse till 6 something last night.
We didn't forget you.
We're happy to just.
I just,
It's taking place. Thank you very much.
I know, you're not used to not having a big mural.
Feels like an interview room. It's nice.
Yeah, now what do you look at? You guys look outside.
Oh, you won't have to wait till it comes to you. One more?
We don't have the.
Do you wanna include
Here
this?
we
You already got that?
Oh, Teresa,
Keep one for
I
you.
gotta have one.
So, please.
Good afternoon, members of the commission. Nice room. This is really beautiful. We're here to present for your approval the unofficial results of the 2019 regular local election, which we finalized yesterday. So these results will be sent to the Secretary of State office, and they will convene on the 26th of November to make these results official. We had 17,207 voters turned out for this election to vote on multiple types of races, from city council, Santa Fe City Council, to school board election, to some bond questions as well. And we had some multi-county races, the Moriarty School District, the Espanola Valley School District. And so these, like I say, are unofficial. They'll be posted on our website after they are approved, and I stand for questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
I do.
Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I did see that some of the numbers, like our 2,000, it's a municipal judges, citywide or countywide?
It was citywide.
Okay,
We had the city council, 4 city council districts, and the
Okay.
municipal judge.
because it's the only one that had really a
Correct.
number.
Each district within the city is their own district, and the judge is at large,
Okay.
citywide, within the county. Remember, the city is, the whole portion of that city is in the Santa Fe County.
Right,
Yes.
okay, that was it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
I motion to approve the November 5th regular local election canvass pursuant to section 1-13-13A NMSA 1978.
So second the motion.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just for discussion, I actually would like to recuse myself from this because I am on the ballot, so I'd just like to recuse myself.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have one recusal. Thank you very much. I entertain a motion.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I
Commissioner
move
Hanson.
to adjourn the canvassing board.
Steve,
Excuse me. I don't know if you would like to sign the certification sheets after
Yes.
the meeting, but they do have to be signed today.
no, I will, if you have pass them around, I'll sign them while there is a lull in the action. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
So we only need to sign 2.
Okay,
I can cross some extras.
okay, thank you. Dear no, I get them, they're just for signature. Dear colleagues, I have a motion to adjourn, can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Steve, are these all the board or just the chair and my signature?
They have spaces for all of them,
Okay.
whoever's here, I believe,
So the whole board,
yes.
okay,
But
so
on
we
this-
need to sign 2 copies, Commissioner Hanson, do you mind starting?
No problem.
Thank you very, very much. I would now like to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. May I please have, and it is 2:07, may I please have a roll call?
Chair Hamilton,
Here.
Commissioner Roybal.
Here.
Commissioner Rodeno,
Present.
Commissioner Garcia,
Present.
Commissioner Hanson,
Present.
all in attendance, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have our opening ceremonies, first time in our new although albeit temporary digs for the meetings, from the Department of Public Works. The pledge by Johnny Baca, state pledge by Chris Norvise, and the moment of reflection by Les Francesco.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico as the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
Dear Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for those gathered here today. We ask your blessings upon them and their families. We give you thanks for this building, and we pray for those in positions of authority who will meet here in this place to face the challenge of making decisions that will affect our community. That you will give wisdom to deal and those challenges with these situations in a way that would serve our community well. Bless them and bless our city and county. Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, and thank you for waiting through the previous meeting. And it was very fitting that Public Works did our first opening in the new building. So that takes us to approval of the agenda. Were there any changes or?
Madam Chair, yes, we amended the agenda on 11/8 at 3 p.m. And there was one item that was added, and that was item 2H under consent, and it is a letter of support, requesting a letter of support. Santa Fe Watershed Association Water Smart Grant proposal. And other than that, the agenda is as posted 1 week ago.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Hanson.
I move to approve the agenda with changes.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Wonderful. So that takes us to the approval of the October 8th meeting minutes for the Board of County Commissioners regularly.
Madam Chair, I have
Yes.
changes, I've given them to Mr. Manager.
Excellent, thank you. So what's the pleasure of the board with those changes?
I move to approve with the changes.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Excellent. So that takes us to the consent agenda. Commissioners, were there any items people had questions on or wanted remove for discussion? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I have a quick question, I'm sorry.
Well, can I have a second first and then we'll have discussion?
I'll second.
Thank you. So,
Madam Chair, on item D, what is the 87,562 an agreement with, what is it about?
Is Bill there?
I'm sorry,
I had a question, I just wanted.
which number?
Item D.
D, I thought you said B, my apologies.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
That is a contract that we have with Elizabeth Peterson Consulting in community services, working with our Health Policy and Planning Commission. They've helped us, Elizabeth has helped us in the creation and development of the accountable health communities. And this is a request to extend their contract for another year. They do help with administration and oversight of the contract with all of the different care facilities throughout Santa Fe that help us administer the accountable health communities.
Thank you. And also, Madam Chair, just really quick, item number E, can you explain that to me, Madam Chair? I know we talked about that at the last couple of meetings or so.
Yes, Madam Chair, Commissioner Garcia, this is requesting authorization. We had discussed with the board moving forward with acquiring a drainage easement on Torcito Loop. This is a resolution to allow us to try to negotiate that easement, and if not negotiated, to file through condemnation proceedings.
Thank you.
Is there further discussion on the consent agenda? If not, I have a motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
for the record, the resolutions you just passed within consent are 2019 134, 135, and 136. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. So that takes us, we have no appointments under 3, so that takes us to 4 miscellaneous action items. Recommendations to the governor of person for appointment as state senator for State Senate District 6. Is Tessa Jo actually presenting this?
Madam Chair, I believe that she is, there she is. This is,
And she was listening and is here, please,
are
Tessa.
you gonna present the
Senate 6?
Yes.
Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay in there, so.
Even our instant electronics are just.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. Madam Chair, as we're all aware, Senator Carlos Cisneros recently passed away. And under New Mexico law, when a vacancy is created in a Senate district that covers 2 or more counties, we are required to submit one name to the governor. Each county will have to do that, and when she receives those recommendations, she will appoint someone in turn. So in response to these requirements, we began accepting applications from individuals who wish to be considered for the Santa Fe County Board of County Commissioners recommendation. The individuals were Roberto Bobby Gonzalez, Gabriel Montoya, Dan Baroni, Cristina Ortez, Gabriel Herrera, and Bina Tompkins. The last 2 did submit after the deadline, but we included them in your packets for your review. All of the applications were included for your review, and staff recommends that the board name one individual to submit to the governor for recommendation. And I believe several of the candidates are also here with us as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair,
Commissioner Hanson.
could we have the candidate come and
Potential appointees.
potential appointees sit up here and give like 3 minutes? I think that's what we said, they would each be given 3 minutes. Sorry.
Shall we do them in the order that they were received?
Sure.
Okay, the first one will be Representative Roberto Bobby Gonzalez. You can have the hot seat. You're ready, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, good afternoon and congratulations on your new building. Extremely beautiful and just shows the work of our taxes. Thank you to all of you for this opportunity, and I will abide by your time. I don't know who's keeping the time. You will? Okay, very well. On my part, on my bio is I am married to Charlene Gonzalez. We've been married 46 years. We have 2 sons. One is Assistant Director of Economic Development with Bernalillo County, and my other son is a medical doctor at the University of New Mexico. And my 2 daughter-in-laws, one teaches online as a doctorate for early childhood education. My other daughter-in-law works with the University of New Mexico. And 2 beautiful grandsons. Granddaughter and grandson, I better correct that. The other part that I wanted to mention with is I have 25 years of experience in the New Mexico legislature in the House of Representatives. I have served in various committees and chairman and vice chairman of several committees. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the mentorship that I have gone, from many of the past legislators from your area that, from Max Call to Eddie Lopez to Ben Pond, those have all been very strong mentors, that I have learned a lot and I have worked very well with them. And with your current legislators, we have a very good working relation. Now, my part, what I would see in working with this is 4 counties, and it's very important that representation, stays as 4 counties, representing each one of you. And one of the highlights that I see, of course, that always surfaces to number 1 is education. But one of the that I see with our part in our state and in our rural areas is infrastructure. We're very much into, we really need to come on strong, with water systems, water and sewer systems, and especially to our areas, that is very hard to be access to, but in this time and day, we have to make more efforts to work with that. We have a lot of our municipalities have very aging systems, and we need to work with that. There are other areas that are very similar to the county of Santa Fe and also to Taos. And for 4 years, I worked really hard on a bill that finally passed, and that is the historical zoning. And that is very crucial that we copied out of your model that you have with Agua Fria. So now that is in place, and that is a state law to have that acknowledgement of any facility building that is 100 years or more. Wait a minute, okay, all right. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did we get to that?
Yeah, do you want to present the question?
Yeah, so I would like to know where just so you know, water and sewer systems are incredibly important to me, and especially since I represent Agua Fria, where we need sewer seriously. But when Amit was in front of the legislature, how did you vote to support that? Did you support Amit
Yes.
on our amount of money that we needed for that going forward?
Madam Chair and
Commissioner Hanson.
Commissioner Hanson, yes, I voted yes.
And how did you vote on the abortion bill to rescind the,
Madam Chair, is it okay to ask questions like that?
or not? I mean,
I just have a
they
question.
were public,
I don't know.
were they public questions and aren't they on the public record? Or maybe I just haven't read them.
Madam Chair, as you presented the forum, it was to make a presentation, but it is your meeting to run as you see fit.
Yeah, I mean, I would keep, if we could do 3 minutes of presentation, 3 minutes of questions, and just keep it pretty pretty short, so.
I'm just asking questions about the legislature
Yes.
and
Madam Chair, just the only concern I have, as long as we ask all the candidates the same questions, and maybe we should have talked about this a little bit before, but so if we have all different questions for different.
I'd be happy to ask all the candidates exactly the same questions.
So on your question, and Madam Chair and Commissioner Henson, I voted to support the bill.
To rescind that,
Yes.
okay. Okay, that's the only two questions I have.
Are there other commissioners who care to ask questions at this time? Very much
Madam
appreciated.
Chair, I have a couple questions. First of all, Chairman, Mr. Representative, thank you for serving the state legislature for as long as you've served. As you know, more than any of us sitting up here, to be a public servant for that is actually an honor and an excellent job. It takes a lot of work to do that. And I've actually worked in the state legislature. I was a staff that actually handled a lot of the legislation in Santa Fe County, and so you've actually done an excellent job there, and I just appreciate your service that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you very much.
And I wanna make one more comment, and you have been appointed by the Taos County Commission?
Oh, Madam Chair and Commissioner Henson, yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Very much appreciate your attendance.
Alrighty, next up will be Gabriel Montoya.
I feel like a movie star.
Yeah, exactly, it's like, don't look out there, they're gonna want
That's
an
why Henry's looking down.
autograph.
Good afternoon. Madam Chairman, Commissioners,
Welcome.
good afternoon, thank you. Great ceremony this morning, I was, the building is impressive. I think this is a huge positive step for the county to have a one-stop shop for all the constituencies. So thank you for all your hard work in the previous commissions to get us where we are today, so thank you. As most of you know me, my name is Gabriel Montoya. I'm a lifelong resident of the Pueblo of Pojoaque. I have a large family. My family, will go with my extended family, reaches from Denver, Colorado, all the way across the country. That would probably be the easiest way to say. Within the district, I have friends and family that live within every aspect of the district. I'm constantly being told what we should work on and what we shouldn't work on the tribal side to assist the other counties. So I do have a good ear to the ground to understand what the true issues are everywhere. I do have a lot of years on the other side of the table than the representative. I've been 24 years on the lobbying side for the Pueblo of Pojoaque, working on things for the three previous governors, or the three governors I've worked for the Pueblo of Pojoaque, whether it's been the gaming issue, taxation, anything that has to do with anything, and most importantly, recently, the AMIT bill, which we all worked on, not only here, but in DC. I think it's crucial that we choose someone, that the county looks at choosing someone who can do a multi-jurisdictional approach and has that type of experience. You're in a very unique situation with 6 tribes, 4 counties, and then all the cities that are in between. It makes it interesting, understanding the dynamics and how that works and how those relationships work are important. I do have that experience, and I have had that experience, and I have the relationships. As you all are aware, I also serve on the Ready Net board, which is a similar type project, which does the multi-jurisdictional, and we've gone from a dysfunctional organization to a rather successful organization. The representative was correct. Education is one thing we'll never argue. All of us will agree education is important. But it's important to not only talk about education, but what are you doing for education? Are you involved in the school boards? Are you, I had the opportunity to work with Disability Rights New Mexico, and parents reaching out this year to train our parents to know what the rights are for our kids who are not getting the services within the classroom. For the Pojoaque School District, we've been having a lot of issues where we're not getting those types of services. So being a critical leader in education is important. Sorry.
I'm done.
Sorry.
Stand for
That's
questions.
So Madam Chair, I'll have the same two questions now. How do you support the Ammon situation?
So I'm not on the legislature, but within the Pueblo Poaki Council, I did vote yes for Ammon.
And then the abortion bill that was to remove an old law from the books. How would you oppose or how would you consider that?
I supported that to get it home.
Yeah.
I supported that, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Alright, next will be Mayor Dambroni.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. I just hope you all received our resumes and all the paperwork that we did submit, so you got an opportunity to see who we really are and the accomplishments we have made within our communities. I was born and raised in Pojoaque. I went to Pojoaque High School from the 1st through the 9th grade. It gave me the opportunity to be part of 4-H in the Pojoaque Valley. Actually raised a grand champion hog and showed it at the Santa Fe County Fair. Probably dug every ditch within the Pojoaque Valley, within the Nambe Valley, within the Jacona and Jaconita areas as a youth. In the 9th grade, moved schools to Santa Fe. Actually graduated out of St. Mike's in 1977, same year that the governor graduated. I graduated with the governor. I was able to become a state wrestling champ, also a all-state, all-district football player within that St. Mike's. So my heart is, within the area. I know what it takes to run government. I've been a county commissioner I was county commissioner for 8 years. I'm currently the mayor, serving my 2nd term. I just want to give back to our community. The community of Pojoaque that gave me a start. They gave me the opportunity to get my life started. I learned about the acequias. I learned about the water. I learned about the many avenues that we have in our community to support our youth. Family is important to me. The family unity is important to me. And as you can see, we will continue to stress that. I do that in my own community. We try to have events that are drug-free, alcohol-free community events. And just want to say, some of the biggest issues that I see that affect the county is the taxation and revenue reporting of taxes. I know we have budgets and when our taxes continue to fluctuate because there's not a good mechanism to figure out why all of a sudden we have a drop in them or why they're clawing back certain revenues. I think this is something that we need to, I know there's a lawsuit that has been filed in some communities, and I know that's something that impacts all our budgets. As far as we talk about the water and support of water and water rights. I did sit with the governor, the past governor. I also sat with all the leaders of the Taos Pueblo tribe because we have a similar, the Amont and the Abeta settlement kind of ran hand in hand and sat with the governor, and we did make sure that the money was allocated for the Abeta settlement. So again, my time's up.
So, Madam Chair, so once again, if you're in the legislature, will you continue to support the allocation of money for the Ammon settlement?
Yes, and water rights and anything else to do with water that we need. That's the most important thing we have in our communities. Without water, we don't have communities.
Right. Water is life.
It is.
And then on the abortion bill?
Abortion bill, we need to remove it. Remove the clause, the old.
The old.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's all I have.
Any other questions?
Just Madam Chair, just a recommendation, or not recommendation, comments. Thank you, Mayor, for serving as a public servant. Just thank you for serving as the mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Christina Ortez.
Good afternoon. And congratulations, I will join the chorus on this beautiful building. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Christina Ortez. I live in Taos. I'm the executive director of the Taos Land Trust, and I'm seeking the nomination for State Senate District 6. I've spent my entire career as a land and water advocate. When I took the helm of the Taos Land Trust nearly 6 years ago, we were in total crisis. We had no office, no staff, no money. The community had little trust in us. I knew that the first thing we needed to do was build back that trust. So for the first 2.5 years, I talked to people. I collected stories, histories, dreams of hundreds of Taoseños. I learned a lot about their lives. And these conversations were not limited to land and water. What my community taught me was that children are important and their lives are imperiled. Many of our children live in poverty. I learned that our community is desperate to solve our behavioral health crisis because so many families suffer. Substance abuse disorder affects every community in our district. I also learned that to support a healthy and thriving childhood, we must focus on their early experiences. I believe that we need frontline workers who are trauma-informed to work with our most vulnerable populations. These frontline folks are daycare providers, teachers, counselors, doctors, and we need to support them so that they can have jobs that support their families and themselves. We need more funding for home visiting programs like Firstborn and First Steps for all the families who want to get those services. First Steps was my first friend in Taos. That's really not at all an exaggeration. Molly McCracken, my home visitor, helped me through childbirth. She negotiated with my health insurance provider so I can get breast care support. She took me to baby music and baby yoga classes so I can meet other moms. And most importantly, she held my hand through my own personal crises. Every family should have a Molly McCracken. There are so many innovative ideas and plans that the state could implement right now to lift our children out of poverty and hunger and build resiliency in our communities. I support these policies. I am different. One of the ways I'm different is pretty obvious. I am a woman. That's not necessarily the reason to vote for me. But I do represent a fresh voice that's been lacking in the Senate for many, many, many years, and a voice that represents 55% of our district. I'm here today because I represent a fresh, new voice, new energy that's been bubbling under the surface for years, and now is finally rising to the top. My community has asked me to step up because of that. Let me be that fresh, new voice in Santa Fe. Thank you.
Questions?
I have questions. About Hammett, the legislature had appropriated $20 million to Hammett, and I just wanna make sure that that is continuing to be supported. And would you continue to?
Absolutely, it's so critical, building water infrastructure, improving water infrastructure, it's critical for this district and for our communities. I would do the same for those implementation funding that's needed for the Abeta settlement as well.
And then on the abortion rule to be removed from the voice.
I believe that a woman's decision to have an abortion is between her healthcare provider, and her God. And I don't believe that government should interfere in that decision at all. And I think it's critically important as we see other states across the country that are reducing this right, killing this right for women. We can't let that happen here. I would repeal that antiquated amendment.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next up will be Gabriel Herrera.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate the opportunity. It is my privilege and honor to be here to try and succeed in a good man that has left us. I worked with Charlie at the Cuesta Mine back in the 80s. And I left Cuesta, joined the federal service. I just retired for 30 years of federal service. So I have no political background. Mine is work ethics, working to do the right thing for the right people. And with that, budget, I've maintained budgets from $600,000 to $63 million. I've worked with military personnel for human services, human rights. As my mom was a teacher in Cuesta, she's still alive. I'm thankful that my mom and dad are still alive. My dad a farmer, so again, I want to represent and fight for every infant to senior citizen. It's very important. We're in a unique district where Red River just provided the Christmas tree. That's a big thing for us here in the state. The pueblos, the acequias, the tourism. There are so many things to fight for, but it has to go down to taking care of our families and our people within. There's just nothing else that we can do. We need to address those issues. Communicate the rights for the right education, get these people there, mentorships for these type of positions. This is very important. These roles need to be filled by competent, experienced people, and with the right work ethic and the right integrity, it can be accomplished. That's really my goal, is just to fight for the rights for the people, doing it the right way with the laws and regulations that we have in place. I think as the previous applicant meant, the resume should speak a lot for where we're at and what our intent is. I'm brief. I'll get to the point. I'll answer any questions, and again, God bless our veterans. We need to take care of the state Senate as well. I'm a Vietnam combat veteran, so I've dealt with VA and veterans' rights on the Pentagon level. I've entertained Secretary of Defenses, senior congressmen to the facilities that I take care of. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to use my experience to fight for the right thing.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hanson?
So, once again, the legislature has appropriated 20 million towards the Amit regional water system in Milwaukee. Would you continue to support that?
Absolutely. Water, as everybody's mentioned, water's life. I own a ranch up in Cuesta, and I fight for water every single year because I'm the last one on the ditch. I'm the last one that gets water. So water rights is precious. It's key.
And I also want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, ma'am.
And then also, there is this antiquated bill about abortion that was in the legislature last year that did not pass. Would you support that to pass?
I'd have to look at the wording for that, but in my personal opinion, my beliefs, my Catholic faith, I'm pro-life, so I'd have to look at what's right for the individuals and right for the law that it stands for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And our last one is Bina Tompkins. Bina Tompkins. Okay, she may not be here.
And I don't see her.
I've never met her, but I'm moving in like just a few seconds, since we do have the delay. I'm sorry? I believe it's like 8 to 30. It ranges from there. So
The video.
Yeah, the video.
Really? Interesting. Okay, so
So now that you guys have heard from all of the applicants, we did take applications with certain requirements. You have all of those included in your board packet. So when you guys provide me with the recommendation, I will submit that to the governor's office on your behalf.
thank you. Commissioner Hanson?
Madam Chair, this is a difficult discussion and a difficult decision. There are many qualified candidates here. I respect that Representative Gonzalez has already been nominated, so therefore I feel that I would like to nominate somebody who has not been nominated by a board. And I have been heavily lobbied by the environmental community I've probably received close to 30 to 40 requests to nominate Christine Ortez. And so with that, because the constituency has been so strong, I am going to put her name up for a nomination.
Thank you. I have a nomination, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there further discussion?
Madam Chair, I have a question. So how does this work as into, so we have a nomination on the table?
Correct.
And so I guess we take a vote, then we keep nominating people
If that vote is not successful.
Now, I wonder, I mean, is that how we did it the last time when we had something like this? Or did we have multiple nominations and then do a vote?
Well, I'm not sure, Mr. Vice Chairman, what happened last time was it was in my district, it was down in the Edgewood area. So we actually had two individuals that came forward. It was Velasquez, and I forget the other lady's name, and we submitted Velasquez. You know, nonetheless, this actually, it's about, the governor has to appoint this. And so one of the questions I have is, can we nominate 2 or 3 different people, or do we have to nominate just one? Because ultimately what happened last time, Santa Fe County nominated Velasquez, and she didn't get nominated by the governor, under the Governor Martinez administration. And one of the things that we need to keep in mind is, or the way I look at it is, last night I watched a movie, and you know, I can't sleep at night sometimes. But last night I watched a movie, and because you just have, no, you just have, yes it was, you just have to actually you know, I'm on the school board, I see what's happening on the school, I see what's on the school board, I was the deciding vote obviously, and one of the things is it's, you just have to vote for what you think is right. And it's not about who calls you, who talks to you, it's just whatever you think the applicant is and what they've done and how it does, because Senator Cisneros' shoes are huge shoes to fill. I've worked with the state legislature for the last, under Manager Miller and a few other managers for the last 13 years as the staff that actually oversaw legislation. And whenever, you could be an applicant and you can say you want to do this and you want to do this, and when legislation is up here. You have the Department of Transportation, you have Health Department, you have all these departments. And at the local government level, we're down here, we're actually individuals that actually work with the individual, the executives. We work with the roads, your roads in the PA, the guardrail fell down. And I get how legislation works up there. And whenever sometimes we talk about, I wanna get these things done, it's almost like trying to get an act through Congress. And at the local level, one individual brought up, said, you know what, at a local level, you're, with all due respect to our legislators, at a local level, you're a lot more effective with individuals, that's just how I feel. And I'm just gonna say it the way it is, because things happen for a reason. I watched that movie last night, and I'm gonna just vote for what I think my heart is and what I need to do. Another thing, like I said, is Senator Cisneros' shoes. Ms. Miller knows, very guy that had it and figured it out, very, he got it, he figured it out. And one of the things that I'm troubled with is we all live in one community. Today we had a groundbreaking ceremony today, and one of the things I wanted to get up there and speak and is give kind of, we're all one. The city council's there, the mayor was there, and so many councilors. We're all one community here. And from Milwaukee North, what this district represents is we're all one community here. We all live here together. And I guess I'm just probably talking out of my heart, and I just wanted to mention that before we want to possibly other nominations or not, because Santa Fe County North, we don't really deal with this with Taos, we don't deal with Rio Rico that much, but as Manager Miller knows, and some of us that have worked here forever, some of us that have worked in the ship for a long, long time, know what local government is, and I guess I'm just letting you know how you feel deep down from my heart.
Madam Chair?
You know,
I just wanted to let you know, in answer to Commissioner Garcia's question, the commission can only send one name by state statute.
Thank you.
I recognize that this is a difficult decision. I was going to comment that my second choice would have been Gabe Gonzalez. Gabe Montoya, because I feel that he would have also really represented this area. But since we can only have one, I just had such a strong push from constituents who I represent that I we wanted to move forward with Christine.
Madam Chair.
I thought,
Oh,
yeah,
she-
no, that's why I hesitated, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, I can respect Commissioner Garcia's point of view, and I do think that would be great if we could do that, but I know that we can only appoint one. And I just wanna say, my feeling in the area is, of course, I'm the commissioner for this district that the senator will be representing, and the way I feel is we do have individuals that could represent, Pawaka and Taos as a whole, and I really feel Mr. Montoya and Mr. Barone can do that, both have ties, and especially Mayor Barone as an elected official, he has that experience in Taos, and also growing up in the valley, he would be a great advocate for services and needs that the community would have, and being that he has a tie with family in the area, so, I do wanna say that, and say that, he would be my nomination, and I feel that, like Commissioner Hanson said, Gabe would also do a great job.
Well said, as for further discussion. Commissioner, whatever.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mayor Barone and I have served on the RTD board for 3 years now. And he chairs a good meeting. He has roots abundant, and it's and he has a good way of making people feel they're recognized, and so Gabriel, all the work that we did in the early years of the 3 years ago, a formative part of my life, and probably yours. And I learned a lot about tribal relations with among indigenous people. And I think that's we have a lot of great people. I don't know how I'm gonna come down. But those are my top two.
Madam Chair, I guess I should make some more comments before we go to a vote, but I would also like to echo what Commissioner Moreno said as to all great candidates.
I'm sorry, sir.
They're all great candidates,
Great
and so
candidate.
you guys will all do a great job, and I know that, I feel that, and so as an individual that got appointed to the school board, and now actually as an individual that's on the ballot and actually gonna be a school board member for the next 4 years, it's sometimes you have to really realize what you're gonna do and stepping up to the plate as into running for office and being in office, because it's a little bit more challenging than people out there realize how challenging it is. And it takes commitment, it takes a lot of work, and it takes big decisions that you have to make. And I just wanna say all the candidates, there's some other candidates that have been in the roundhouse for many years, and the mayors and people that have worked for nonprofits, people that work for tribal governments, people that actually worked in the private sector and help out individuals. I think you guys are all, you individuals are very qualified to be appointed. I just wanted to mention that.
All of this is very well said, and it's very true. It's a difficult decision. People say you're blessed when you have, yes,
Madam Chair.
yes, Commissioner?
Will we be deliberating or
This is
or
it.
just, okay.
This is the,
This is it.
this is the public
deal.
discussion on it. So we have a nomination of Cristina Ortez and a second by Commissioner Hanson and Commissioner Moreno. And if there's no further discussion, all in favor of that nomination, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions?
I'll abstain.
I just actually like to, I'm just gonna speak from my heart. I actually think you guys all did a great interview. I understand where the votes are, what happened with the votes, and I would ask, obviously Representative Gonzalez, you have the utmost experience, sir. One day I was at a forum down south.
Can we complete the vote first? How did you vote? How are you voting? Abstaining, opposed, or?
We haven't voted.
I just called for a vote.
Right now it's
I heard it was three.
I heard 3 yeas and 1 abstention.
I'll vote for it.
Yes.
4 yeas, 1 abstention.
So the nomination passes. It was a very difficult decision. I can't tell you how much I thank everybody for applying. They say it's, the riches of, having many good candidates. I personally would encourage everybody, thank you for your service and for continuing to be willing to put yourselves forward. Congratulations, Christina, we wish you the very best in moving forward with this nomination.
Just really quick.
I would just like to say to all of you, I hope you will run. I hope you will run in the 2020 and get your name on the ballot, because I really think that it is up to the people to make the decision. And this has really been extremely difficult for me, and I want you to know that. And because I think that many of you are qualified, not one of you, but probably all of you are qualified to serve. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia?
Just really quick, I'm just gonna, once again, just speak as into, Representative Gonzalez, actually, we had a forum when I was running for office down in the southern part of the state, or the county, sorry. And one of the things they asked was term limits. Do you all agree with term limits? And 3 out of the 4 candidates says, we agree with term limits. And gentleman that's in office right now, he said, I don't agree with term limits. And he said, one of the individuals that actually taught me how the roundhouse works, our capital, great capital, is Lucky Varela. Lucky took me to lunch one day and he said, this is how the budget works, in a nutshell. And he said, if we don't have term limits in that place, the individual that will be running that roundhouse will be the lobbyist. So I actually respected that, because, and Representative Gonzalez, you've been there for many, many years. You have very great institutional knowledge there. Mr. Montoya, you're an up-and-coming star, up-and-coming guy. You know how local government works. You did a great interview. Christine, you're an up-and-coming individual, and like Commissioner Hanson said, great shoes to fill, and good luck. I wish you the best of luck and take care of the Milwaukee Valley here. Mayor, you actually hit a lot of key points that I thought were very great. Sekias, digging ditches, roads, local government stuff, not statewide stuff, not house stuff, local government stuff, not abortion stuff, because we don't deal with abortion stuff whenever it comes to local government. But the good questions from Commissioner Hanson, but I thought you really hit it very well as into local government stuff. Gentlemen here, thanks for coming forward. Sorry I forgot your name, but thanks for coming forward and wanting to be involved in the process, because that's what happens. You have to be involved in order to have a vote or say so. Like the ex-mayor, the ex-county commissioner, Javier Gonzalez's dad, when he was a mayor, he said in Spanish, he says, si no votan, no lloran. You don't get involved, and you don't vote, you don't cry. And I appreciate you coming forward and speaking up. And great job. Thank you all for doing the interview.
Thank you.
I just wanna thank everybody that was here today. Gabriel Herrera, really liked a lot of what you had to say. It was even being a veteran, I wanna thank you for your service. My dad was a Vietnam veteran as well, and so I know that it wasn't a war that was very brought brought to light is now everybody's thankful, but then it wasn't, and it was something very difficult for our soldiers to go through. Representative, thank you for being here today. I think, you know, you're doing a great job as a representative, and I think that you have great experience that you brought, that you could bring forward. So I really appreciate you being here today, and you know, Christina, congratulations on the nomination here. Mr. Baroni, you know, I know a lot of your family as well in the Poaka Valley, and I know that you have served well as a senator as well. You know, there's still opportunity to run in June or even be appointed by another board, but I just wanna say, thank you guys for being here today. You know, I just wanna, whoever ends up being in this position, I look forward to working with you this next year. Gabriel, is Gabriel still here? You're sitting down, Gabriel, thank you, sir. You know, we've had the great opportunity to work on things together from the acequias, you know, and issues that we have in that acequia all the way to the Ahmad and to other issues. You run the ReadyNet, you're great, you're a great advocate for the community, and I just wanna say thank you for everything that you do. It's inspiring. We've been friends since we were kids, you know, and so we know each other a very long time. So I have a great deal of respect for you, and thank you for coming here and having the courage to come forward. I know how many of you are going to Los Alamos now?
Oh, we should let you go then, huh?
Are y'all taking the bus or the bus?
Okay, so thank you guys, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, same here, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioners. We'll be submitting a letter to the governor immediately.
Thank you for handling this. Thank you very much. Yeah, I bet, and wait. So that takes us to matters of public concern. I know this is gonna be a little.
Madam Chair, so the union would like to speak to the board, the AFSCME union, and there are several of them in hall. I thought that they could come in, they wanted to at least introduce themselves. Hopefully they could stand along the wall. And then the president and I think some of the other officers may have a couple of comments that they wanted to bring forward to the board.
Okay, and just a point of order, this is public comment, so it's not
This is
necessarily a
under-
question and answer period.
Correct, this
Yes.
is under public comment.
Yes, thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm Lucas Herrera, the president of Local 1782. I brought some employees with me. If you guys wanna introduce yourselves.
Larry Gonzalez, heavy equipment operator.
Lawrence impression.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rob.
Robert Gallegos, heavy equipment operator.
Go ahead and push down a little bit more, Rob.
Thank you. Lawrence Impression, Roads Department, equipment operator.
Rob Jackson, road management. Jason Ladiniaga, roads.
Evan Ortiz, equipment operator.
Kenny Rodriguez, Arturo Hernandez, roads.
Anthony T. Herino.
Jordan Alfonso, roads.
Andy Vargas, roads.
Joe Mack, roads.
Marisol Martinez. Annette Baca, finance, and I'm one of the trustees on the board.
Melissa Martinez, Finance, Executive Board Member, Stewart, Level 2.
I'm Roxanne Lujan. I am from Finance. I am a Secretary Treasurer for Local 1782, and I'm a Stewardship 2 level.
Jacob Stock, Growth Management, and I'm a trustee.
Thank you for having us here. I'm not very good at words, so I wrote everything down, so bear with me.
So just really quick, Mr. President, just relax, it's all good, you know, we're all, this is all local building, you know, say how you feel comfortable.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Madam Speaker and County Commissioners, my name is Lucas Herrera. I'm the president of Local 1782, AFSCME. We are here today to make progress by working with management on important topics and to reach out to you, the County Commissioners, to partner on policy and to be used as tools to help with policies. By creating policies that will benefit the employees that serve in the county, It'll also benefit the people that live in the county. We stand with the employees from Santa Fe County, here today and every day. By trying our best to improve quality, morale, and integrity, we will continue to work hard for the employees. We also are here to thank you for all that you do for the employees. As you know, most of us are working hard while these meetings are in progress. We'd also like to thank you for all the cost of living increases that you have given the employees. And we know that you will continue to help us. And I will end on this. A quote by John F. Kennedy, President John F. Kennedy, in his State of the Union address. Partners for Progress, we are all trustees for the American people, custodians for the American heritage. Thank you for allowing us to be here. Thank you for giving us a moment of your time.
Absolutely, thank you for coming and speaking.
Can I have a quick comment?
Sure.
So, just really quick, I think the quote that you have from President Kennedy is, I've always said that we work for the general public, that's we work for the taxpayer, and I learned that from many years ago. I used to work on this, I grew up here on this brand new building, Catherine Bell. No, I don't. Well, so I actually, as being line
We
staff.
walked uphill both ways to school.
In the snow. So actually, as line employees, I certainly see what you guys do out there, public works, everything's very important in Santa Fe County, and I get it, I see it. And like you said, the president's quote from Kennedy, that's it, we work for the taxpayer. I learned that from the ex-late speaker Ben Lohan about 25 years ago. He came and he got a permit, and he said, there was a guy that was working, he said, you need to help us out in the morning. He was some older man. He said, you all work for the taxpayer. And Catherine Miller, Manager Miller knows, so that's what this next speaker was. We all work for the taxpayer, and I appreciate everything that y'all do, because there's things out there that get done, roads, finance. There's a lot of things out there that get done that people think about out there. They don't really see the financial things that Manager Miller takes next, and she works very hard at that, and the county, we do well. But I just wanted to tell you guys, thank you for what you do, and thank you for working for Santa Fe County. It's a great place to work. Cost of living raises are good. One of the things is that I see is we actually sometimes, some people go to the city for $2 or $3 more an hour. But what they don't realize is the county pays about 18-19% to the PRA fund, but the city only pays 14 or 15. So some of these individuals go to the city for $2 or $3 more an hour, and they get less of a check because they don't do the homework, right? I appreciate all the work that y'all do. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hanson.
Yeah, I wanna thank you all for coming here, and thank you, Nat, that is really kind, touches my heart. I'm really grateful to be a county commissioner. I'm grateful to be able to represent all of you, and so it means a lot that you are all here standing together. And so I just wanna thank you for being here, and thank you for your hard work throughout the county. It means a lot to me, and I know a lot to the rest of the commission, so thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of wanna ditto the same comments that my fellow commissioners have made. My other, the other hat that I wear at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, I actually work for utilities and institutional facilities, so I deal on a day-by-day basis with heavy equipment operators, with the planners, engineers. So, I see at the laboratory and here, where this is where the rubber meets the road. We're talking finance that makes sure that we have the money to be able to go. They give us purchase orders, work orders, whatever we need to get the job done, but it really takes a team. And like you mentioned earlier, you said that you wanna help with leadership to make sure that we keep the people positive and working together, and I think we need that leadership from within the organization, and that's what I see here is that leadership. I saw a lot of guys here competed for the heavy equipment contest, and I went to go watch that at when we were out, the rodeo. I know it was during one of the meetings and I went late to that meeting, but it was worth it, and I did miss some of it, but Commissioner Hanson filled me in when I got there. So anyways, but what I do wanna say is that, we always have to remember
each individual part of our work group, because together we make a team. And I love to see this display of personnel that come and come together, and you guys all stand as one unit to address the board. I mean, it really means a lot to me, and I want you to know my door is always open to speak to any one of you. So I really appreciate you guys coming here today. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you for coming. I think Commissioner Roybal is right, our doors are always open. I can certainly say that for myself. I bet that's true for everybody here at the table, and really proud to be working with you guys.
Just really quick, Madam Chair, I think this is great for you guys to come and talk to us, cause I don't know how many times that the unit has actually come and said, hi, this is who we are, hi. So let's have a handshake, right? And I think this is a good back and forth dialogue.
Thank you.
Weren't you supposed to be in the donuts, Commissioner?
I love the rodeos. Okay. Just so you know. I just wanted to add that.
It's probably, I guess I can,
I'd like to.
yeah.
Okay. I really appreciate your words. And you know that there are times that you and I have to work with your members. And what you may not know is that I'm a child of a woman and my brother who were members of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. And so I'm very pro-union, but there's times that we have to work together and we work, we have to work. But I appreciate, because you do listen when I talk to you and your members about the importance of the operations of the clerk's office. And today your words solidify that for me even more. I can remember as a child my mother being on strike and preparing us for a strike and say we will not have money for food, but the union will be there for us. So I have those direct memories of my mother in the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers and my brother, close to 40 years, same member. So I can appreciate all that you do, because the main thing about unions, safety, and you gave us the weekend. So thank you for your words and for all of you, your hard work. And remember, we want to work with you. We're different compared to the board, because we are offices that manage offices and we have employees that are under us. So let us continue to work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for giving us a moment to speak.
Anytime.
Thank you.
And so I know there was some. I know there's a delay out to the, not you guys, I mean just generically, to the other people who are attending this meeting but are in other conference rooms, but this is, we're still in public comment. Thank you very much. And so is there anybody else from the public who wishes to address the board in this room or in any of the conference rooms?
Sir, did you want to address the board?
No.
Yeah. Although he has a very good cigar shop down the street.
Cigars, Catherine?
Oh dear.
Could see with a cigar.
Once again, is there anybody else?
I think there was a man down the hall.
I will keep it open until we can get that.
Gary, do you think it was the tall guy? Be careful.
No, he said he wanted to do something. Let me go check.
So if you go, it's on this side, past the stairs, there's like a little hall, right, just past where the stairs come down. You can go from this side, you don't go. So it's on the right. So we're not quite, we still are potentially in public comment, but please don't go anywhere. This is, you start handing things out, it's all great. Right, yeah. So I'm just waiting to get word on whether there's anybody else here from the public who wants to address the board, just so you guys know where we are. It's funny. I need one more. That's it. And we pass, and do you want one? Thank you very much. Jody. So I'm not until Manager Miller comes back in, I assume she went to see if there was anybody else from the public. We're way past the 30-second delay. We were told that as it loops through the video and then to the monitors in the conference rooms, and so there's like something between the 10 and 30-second delay between what we say and what they hear. So since not everybody's in one room, it's hard to call for public comment and be fair.
But if somebody shows up.
I guess we can reopen the secondary public comment. So, well, okay, well, go ahead, by all, you'll wanna hear this, but if you haven't, I mean, that's just a little pre-knowledge, you'll be interested in hearing
I was
this.
just gonna wait till Catherine got back to the start the meeting, she's back.
Yeah. Now I'll wait for the chief to get back. She's doing the building inspection. A little ad hoc troubleshooting or. I'm giving him squirrely faces. What are you doing? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and close public comment and thank everybody who came. That takes us to item 6, presentations. And we already have some materials passed out. Presentation by Melissa and Tom on the county opioid outreach program. And I know we are prepared, you actually have a PowerPoint, right?
We do.
And we are, Professor Joe had it set up, I already checked with her, Sarah, if you don't mind, that, just asking her if she's, cause I don't see Matt here either, so I don't know how to start it without her.
No, we don't have to do, I mean, it's basically the exact handout that you have in front of you, so whatever you guys would like to do.
I know you guys are totally willing to wing it, right?
So Commissioner Hamilton, I was gonna give some opening remarks, so just let me know when you, just to give the commission some history to this project. And to understand everything in context, so whenever you're ready, just let me know.
There seems to be a separate meeting going on out here, and I would like to know if any of them want to be in here. It's like a bigger and bigger group. I'm happy to proceed because this was really to first and foremost to inform the commissioners, so I think we are good as soon as.
So they're getting the projector screen ready and they're gonna pull up the presentation.
Great.
You have a PowerPoint that was
Yes, but
uploaded
we have
to Board
opening,
Docs?
yes.
Okay, yeah,
And
we're
we
gonna
have opening remarks first, so we will have a minute or two. Thanks so much,
We're
Sarah,
getting
really
situated.
appreciate it.
Thank you for your patience.
So, Madam Chair, Commissioner Rachel O'Connor with the Community Services Department, and I just wanted to speak a couple minutes to put the next presentation in context of the things that both the commission and the county manager have supported over years and how they have come to fruition in such a monumental and impactful way. About 5 years ago, Chief Sperling and I never know what the new noise in building's gonna be. Chief Sperling and I worked together to fund a program looking at the various ways that Santa Fe County Fire Department could be.
Madam Chair and Rachel, I'm sorry, we seem to have lost a quorum.
Yes, thank you. I missed the fact that Commissioner Hanson left, and I shouldn't have. Thank you very much, Manager Miller.
Okay, now we have a quorum.
I did not know that you were at lost.
Quite all right, thank you very much. Thank you, Rachel.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, about 5 years ago, Santa Fe County funded a study, and between the Community Services Department and the Santa Fe County Fire Department, we hired what was ex-Senator Dee Dee Feldman to come in and study across jurisdictions and make recommendations to the county about how we could use our fire department in a way to address those priorities that are in the Santa Fe County Health Action Plan. And at that time, she came back to us approximately a year later with a variety of different recommendations. And what I really wanted to say today is that we have had the opportunity to roll out not just one but two projects since that time period. The first project that we did is what was called the Health Tracks program. So we hired a navigator out of the Senior Services program who does navigation for high-risk clients that are either coming out of Christus or referred to us through our internal program or referred to us through the fire department in helping those people try to sustain independent living in their community. That was the first program that we created that was joint between the fire department and the Community Services Department to address the needs of what is really a high-risk population. About 3 years later, we were approached by the Human Services Department, both myself and Chief Sperling, and asked if the county was willing to work with the New Mexico Department of Health to do a project, to do follow-up with people who have experienced a drug overdose and were hospitalized. Or spent some time in the hospital system. We were willing to do that, in part because someone who has experienced a drug overdose is at extremely high risk for experiencing a second one. And both Chief Sperling and I worked together to accept that grant and with the county manager and the commission's permission move forward with hiring Melissa and Dave, and Mike. Sorry about that, Mike. And this has really become a great program to address high-risk needs in our community. And it has the opportunity to grow because we are in the process of hiring navigators at the Community Services Department who will link and do follow-up work once Melissa and Mike have addressed the overdose issue. And so we're really excited to have them on board. It's been just like an incredible program. And I'm really happy to work with Chief Litzenberg going forward too. I think we're both very devoted and pleased with the work that's been done. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of history of that before they reported to you. So.
Very much appreciated, thank you. Melissa?
So I don't know exactly what we're doing with the PowerPoint. Did we decide to skip it altogether?
I just need someone to log in and then we can send it out.
So it wasn't downloaded
Don't hold back.
I can get that.
And again, we don't have to use it. What you're saying in the, you wanna just start? Okay.
No, just go.
So
Just
we'll
start,
just
if we can
start.
start it, it would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's useful to talk to, but this is great too.
So at the beginning of this is our presentation that we go around that we have gone to all of our fire districts, our field staff, and given them this presentation. So you're seeing what they have been seeing. It's been a little bit modified for you guys, so it doesn't take as long, because typically it takes about 30 to 45 minutes. So page 2 will show you our vision, mission, and values and the goals, and we of course focus mainly on 3 and 5 for Santa Fe County Fire Department. After this, Mike Milligan is going to go over the problem.
Hi, I'm Mike Milligan. I'm a contracted social worker, licensed clinical social worker with the fire department for at least the next year. My position has been funded by a federal SAMHSA grant through the State Behavioral Health Services Department. I'll start off with the problem. So we can say that the last 30 years in America, 900,000 plus deaths from overdoses, more than all our wars put together. And in the last 5 to 10 years, there's been an upsurge to the point where there was 72,000 overdose deaths 2 years ago. And what's really going up is the synthetic opioids, the fentanyl, the death rate from that. So on page 4 on the handout, which is in landscape form, it shows just the opioid deaths and the fact that men are at a much higher rate for overdose deaths. This grant's initial focus is to reduce opioid overdose deaths by the distribution of Narcan. So that's what we're doing, and Melissa will get into that in a little more depth later. So there's a national map of the United States, and New Mexico used to own the highest rate of overdose deaths. Although in the last number of years, because of the increase in prescription medication, Appalachia and New England has just as high and higher dose. Although, and you'll see on the next map, we have an outline of New Mexico. The top middle county in dark is Rio Arriba, still in the top 5 counties in the country with overdose death rates for opioids. And Santa Fe is just under that with the little rectangle. So a couple years ago, Santa Fe had 32 deaths per 100,000. That was the rate, per 100,000. Next door, San Miguel had 44 death rates per 100,000. Rio Arriba is sitting at 90. And Santa Fe and Rio Arriba share a lot of services and a lot of population and a lot of cross-border activity. So Rio Arriba still has one of the highest death rates per 100,000 in the whole nation. But the good news is that last year, the overdose death rate went down 5% in the whole country, from about 72,000 to 69,000 deaths. Some of that has been attributed to the availability of Narcan, naloxone, which can reverse opioid overdoses if caught in time. I'm going to have Melissa explain exactly what we do with that and our activities in the county and what we've discovered so far.
So on this page, Mike already kind of touched base on how he was funded and his history with this. So we're going to move on. So this is our flow chart and how we identify our clients and how we find those individuals that we reach out to. We do it through a 911 audit that we do through the state database. Every morning I come in and I run this report. And what it does is it identifies overdose survivors and people who have died from overdoses through a word search. What it does is it picks up certain language related to an opiate related call, and it pulls those reports out and it compiles it into one resource, one report for me. I then go through all those reports and identify whether it was truly an opiate related call, if it was just maybe something that they used, somebody named a drug. I identify whether it is truly an opiate related call, and then from then I go back to our reporting system for the county fire department and I do some research on these individuals, thorough research. I find out whether Santa Fe County Fire Department has built a relationship with them over the years, whether we responded to them multiple times, how many times we transported them, what kind of relationship we've had. I also go to the Sheriff's Department and do a background check on these individuals to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in undue harm. Risks that we don't need to take. I also do research on the actual residency that their last known residency as well. We had an incident last week where we found out that we were not aware of a flag, and we almost responded to an incident where there was a flag on the residence. So we're still learning how to do this research and how best to identify these individuals. We've got a pretty good hand on it as of right now. In the last few months, we've been up and running since June. We've reached out to over, how many people would you say? 60 different people. We've actually gotten one individual into rehab and into detox successfully. We've had also individuals who have expressed wanting to further their treatment, find treatment, and we connect them to those resources. One of the things that we're just started to implement, we haven't been able to quite yet because we just received our tablets, is Bright Heart Health, who is a telemedicine program, will be we are now able to connect individuals who are interested in treatment but who do not have the capability to maybe get to those treatment centers to do it through telemedicine. Yes, so we're starting to implement that as well. So all in all, it takes about a couple of hours every morning for us to do all of our research and then identify them and come up with a game plan. Every individual that Mike and I identify, we come up with a game plan and a certain approach for every single one of them individually. We don't have like a full routine for it's not the same for each individual because everybody has their own story and we have to approach everyone individually, if that makes sense. So the next one is just a list of our resources. And we are connected to all of these individuals. These are people that we refer to, that we refer are the clients that we've met with also. We reach out to all of these, we've made connections and had meetings with all of these individuals. And there's a lot more, we could not list all of them on one sheet. And again, we wanted to shorten it down. One of the things that we also do in our outreach is not only distributing Narcan, but teaching them how to administer it, teaching their family members how to administer it, and also teaching them how to do rescue breathing as well, and how to identify an overdose. And what to do in the event of an overdose. Once they've given them Narcan, if they've stopped breathing, do the rescue breathing, call 911 before they start all of that. It's a whole process. We spend about an hour with each client that we reach out to, and we try to get their families involved as well. So they're typically the ones that find the individuals that have overdosed. Right, go ahead.
So we also talk about harm reduction, and we put a slide about the Mountain Center, which does a substantial amount of harm reduction services in northern New Mexico. I was able to go with them for one day, and I shared this story just to give you the gravity of the problem. So they do needle exchange in Chimayo, and, from Milwaukee north all into the entire Rio Arriba County. So I went with them on the Santa Fe route one day, where they go around all day and exchanging needles and giving supplies. And the first stop, somebody came up with a 5-gallon bucket of used needles, and he traded them for 3 cases of new needles. And that's 30 years as a social worker, that still shocked me, and that was just one stop. And so that's kind of what's going on in the county. And the dynamics we've seen from Chimayo versus Edgewood area versus almost on the border of Pecos and then Agua Fria are all a little bit different, but the problems are pretty prevalent, and we're still working on educating people about harm reduction. So we've personally done 15 one-hour trainings with the entire Santa Fe County Fire Department about what we're doing, COOP, County Opioid Outreach Program, and what harm reduction is, and that's part of the education process. So with that, we're handing out these Santa Fe County resource guides that Rachel's department has put together, and now these are being carried on multiple county trucks so that they can give out resource information on their 911 calls. And so we're just kind of building on this, and we give them out ourselves. And then what's going on across the country is fire departments are experimenting with MIHO type community health programs, and it's different parts of the country, urban, rural, and the city of Santa Fe has a MIHO project, and the dynamics are a little bit different, the problems. In Santa Fe County,
You might tell them what that stands for.
a mobile integrated health office. And so we decided to call ourselves COOP because we're specific to opioids, and there was some confusion between city and county programming. So Santa Fe County Fire is doing the COOP program, and we're addressing the opioid issue and connecting people to services. But we've noticed that there's definitely quite the demographic and cultural differences in the county. We've also established working relationships with the 4 pueblos. San Ildefonso, a little bit less, but the other 3 a little bit more robust. If there's overdoses on the pueblos, we ask for permission to approach pueblo members. And then Melissa will cover the last page.
So this is our information, which you guys will all have, and before we leave, we have our rack card, and we'd love to give you guys some of our fancy pens, so you guys have our information. But our main focus, of course, is to be a better resource for our community, for the community that Santa Fe County Fire Department serves. That looks very different, like he said, going from Edgewood to Chimayo all the way to Hondo. We're trying to find the best we're trying to be the best resource for all of these individuals. Hondo doesn't have a huge opiate related issue, but they do have some. They have more elderly falls and elderly citizens that live in their community that need help. So we're also trying to find a way to be the best resource for them as well. And that's countywide. So we're still learning, we're still growing, and we're still trying to perfect this program. Does anybody have any questions?
I would like to add that it's not just illicit heroin. many of our calls are prescription opioid overdoses. And we've been in $1 million houses in Los Campanas, into like destroyed trailers in Edgewood. So it covers quite a bit of the county and the demographic.
So I just wanted to add before we closed it, two different things, and that is that we have two very important meetings this week. Tomorrow, both Melissa and Mike and I are going to meet with the New Mexico Department of Health, our chief epidemiology, to talk about the possibility at their request of doing follow-ups as well for people who have made a suicide attempt. Because just as opiate overdose has increased significantly in the state of New Mexico and Santa Fe County, so has the number of people who have committed suicides. And on Thursday, we're also meeting with the Human Services Department to talk about ongoing funding of the project and current status. So the program continues to grow and gain interest on a statewide level. And I just wanna say thank you because these two have just blown me away in terms of their capacity to respond and intervene in a crisis situation.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much. I know there are a lot of questions out here. Commissioner Rodwell?
Well, earlier when Mr. McMillan was talking, you mentioned overdoses with prescription drugs, and
Yes.
I assume that there's probably a lot of elderly people that are accidental overdoses.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Is there a big percentage, or is it a small percentage of the whole amount?
It is a smaller percentage of the overall amount, but it is out there and it's becoming more prevalent. We've seen it more in the past 6 months than we have. Granted, we didn't have this program last year, so that may be why we're seeing it more, but we are seeing it a lot more. And that's where we also try to be a really good resource and try to connect them with the correct resources. If they're there, if they live by themselves and they have nobody to help manage their prescription medication, or if they don't have any assistance at all. That's where we really come in and try to connect them with the right resources like community services.
Do we ever notify their physician or anything like that, or is it really up to them to?
That is not, we don't. And the reason we don't is because that could potentially be a breach of their confidentiality with us. Now, when we fill out the paperwork for Santa Fe Connect, they do sign a release form and in that consent, but that is not something that Mike and I do, that would be their navigators. Their navigators. And I don't know if they take that on.
So Madam Chair, Commissioner, I do wanna just add one thing. Overdose in Santa Fe County is a reportable condition. So we are actually the ones notified through the New Mexico Department of Health that somebody has experienced an overdose. So the hospital generally at some point is involved and the Department of Health in that exchange of information to us.
Thank you.
And we get our referrals from the both hospitals and our firefighters that are in the field as well.
Other commissioners?
Yeah, I wanna thank you very much for this presentation. You know, when I go to NACO, the National Association of Counties, and listen to other counties talk about the opioid crisis and the things that are happening throughout the rest of the country, I'm grateful to see us being so proactive, and so I wanna thank Rachel and thank you for, you know, cause I think that those are the kind of things that are gonna help us in the long haul, help our population, because I've lived here close to 50 years and Rio Arriba has always been the problem of having such high overdoses, even when I first moved here in the early 70s. And so, you know, that is a systemic problem that we have there, and something that is gonna take work. Whereas a lot of the problems are also new problems with this fentanyl and these new drugs that are coming online. And, you know, some of those hopefully we can curb early on and make a difference. So I wanna thank you for your service and for your work.
Thank you. One of the things that we've seen, one of the trends is Rio Arriba has kind of bled into Santa Fe County in the way that we have some of the residents that come into Santa Fe County, they have their overdose, and then they go back to their residence in Rio Arriba County. So what Mike and I did is we went to Rio Arriba County, we went to the city of Espanola, we spoke with their mayor, their
City manager.
manager, and then their interim fire chief or their assistant fire chief, I can't remember.
Assistant.
And ask for permission to reach out to those individuals that overdosed in Santa Fe County, because we get those reports, we can identify those individuals and they don't have a program like that out there as of yet. They have the Mountain Center who does that, they do a great job doing outreach and harm reduction, but they don't have the ability to go to individuals' houses like we do. They don't have that kind of access, and they've given us permission to be able to do that. So hopefully we can start seeing a difference there as well.
Commissioner Roybal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a follow-up, I guess ask if we could, maybe think outside the box, and maybe it's not so far outside the box, but we had, I'm actually having a presentation tonight, and I talked to Rachel about it, from the homeless shelter, Pathways Homeless Shelter that they're building in Espanola,
The new
city
one.
limits.
Yeah.
I've met with the board a few times already, and it's in my district too, so it's in Santa Fe County. It is in the city of Espanola, where the city actually, Santa Fe County, the city of Espanola, 40% of
Right.
of the individuals that live in the city of Espanola are actually Santa Fe County residents. So I don't know if there's some way to kind of partner with this homeless shelter with the services that you guys provide, but I think that's something that is gonna be an ask in the future, that there's some way that we can partner and work with that shelter. I think that they've got an opportunity, right now they're only leasing 4,000 square feet, but the whole building, which the owner has said that he's willing to take a loss of about $1 million in equity to just let them take over the payments, and I think they owe about $150,000. If they got the whole area, it'd be like 10 or 11,000 square feet extra on top of the 4,000. So it would have a huge potential to possibly have services for, from one spectrum to the next, as far as opioid addiction and how we provide services to help deal with that.
Absolutely.
And so, there's a lot of opportunity here that, we can possibly partner with the city of Espanola, and as well as the county of Rio Arriba County and Santa Fe County, if we could do something in the future collaboratively to kind of make this shelter work as a service to the constituents, because it's something that I feel like, I even have some family that I could say, I think there's not anybody that doesn't have family and friends, and they're affected somehow by opioid addiction, and so, you see the trial and tribulation that these people go through, and it's just something that we really need to focus on trying to, put a dent in this battle, because we're losing it. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing, and
Thank you very much.
Part of our mandate is outreach, and in the meetings up there, they're very excited about Pathways in the Shelter opening. We can certainly reach out to them. We have a lot of Narcan to distribute free of cost and offer all the training that we can do, and we'll get right on that.
Okay, and they'll be here tonight if you guys wanna stick around, if your schedule permits.
We'll discuss that, because we have another presentation that we have to do tonight. But we'll discuss that, maybe one of us could stick around.
Okay.
We'll talk about that, but I appreciate that input. And one of the things that I found is the more resources that we that we make connections with, the better resource we can be. And part of that is getting in contact with Rio Arriba County.
Well, I have a small question and a big question. Small question first. Have you also done the training, as you trained with the paid fire staff?
Yes.
With the volunteers?
That's what we're doing tonight, and we have actually done, we've had a training with Hondo, El Dorado, and Glorieta. Tonight we are training Turquoise Trail, Agua Fria, La Cienega, and Madrid. And
So you're doing the regional training for the.
Yes, we are doing that,
Almost 100 full-time firefighters have had the training of an hour or more, and over 30 volunteers so far.
They're our biggest proponent here. They're the ones that really that need to understand that the information that they provide help us to better identify and be a better resource to these individuals.
And there are lots of places like the Eastern region, just because I happen to be there, I just know a little bit, where the volunteer paid work well on this kind of thing, and together, like, have more have community familiarity, that we can't be anything but a benefit to this kind of program.
Right. And that's our job, right? Be a better benefit for our community.
Exactly. So the big question, what are the prospects for continuing this? Like, if this was a 2-year grant, what are we? And it's a loaded question, and it's meant to be a loaded question because there, to things of, what should we be looking to help, to document the benefits soon enough in the coming year to get additional grant money, to see what the board can do to, you know.
Well, hopefully Rachel will be able to get that answer for us tomorrow.
Doesn't have to all be answered tonight, but I wanted to put it out on the table.
So Madam Chair, there's two different things that we're doing to look at sustainability. One is tomorrow, I'll be meeting with the chief epidemiologist from the Department of Health. And part of my ask to him is whether or not there is Department of Health funding to pick up some of the ongoing costs of this program. And in particular, if they're asking for expansion activities like follow up on people who have attempted suicides, we would be particularly interested in doing that. And secondly, on Thursday, I'm meeting with BHSD, the Behavioral Health Services Division of HSD, to see if we're gonna have continuation funds for another year for the grant. I'm anticipating that the answer to that will be yes.
Really?
And I'm hoping so. And that certainly was our plan when we first started the project, is that we would have a number of years of funding from the state of New Mexico to continue on.
Really commend your work on this. Thank you for all that effort.
Thank you very much.
Other commissioners, really. Commissioner Garcia?
Just really quick, thank you for the presentation, very, very important topic in our community, as we all know. Unless you actually are really affected by it, then you really get into it's just like cancer.
Right.
But thank you for you, Ms. Moya, volunteer, you have a great family that's done excellent in my part of the district, thank you for your volunteer work before you actually.
Before I actually became a paid staff,
Thank you.
right?
Before she was legitimized.
Before she was.
Right. How do y'all determine the high risk population?
Through our identification, through the reports that our crews out in the field write, I read through them and what I try to do is, again, research the relationship we've had with these individuals. If it's been an individual that we've responded to them just that one time, I do some research and see how many medications are they on, are they elderly, where do they live, do they have any other resources around them. We reach out to them, we call almost every person that could deem possibly high risk. A lot of that really has to do with the type of medication. We're seeing more and more prescription medication issues than we are with heroin and other opioids. Yeah, heroin is not as big as it used to be, which is good and bad. It's good because you kind of see it, I don't want to say fading away because I don't think it ever will. But the prescription pills are the ones that have really proven to be the biggest issue. And those are the ones that, we just try to reach out to anybody that we feel can benefit from this, meaning elderly, and they don't have to be elderly, but if they do have a history of it, and for the most part, about 90% of these individuals have a history. They're pretty easy to identify.
And Commissioner, if I could just add one thing to that, there is a sort of pre-selection process, whereas they come to us as high risk because it's a reportable condition. So the hospital identifies people who have had a drug overdose, they notify the New Mexico Department of Health, and then they notify us.
One of the things also is, whenever Sheriff Mendoza actually got elected, this is one of his platforms was to help out the community with the opioid situation we have going on, so I'm glad to see that the sheriff's actually involved in that. Also, one of the things I would like to know and how this works, I would like to have seen the Regional Emergency Communications Director here, because how do you guys all interact and talk together and figure that out? You don't have to explain it to you right now, but because that's one of the most important. Whenever calls 911, goes to that dispatch office, then it goes to you all, right? And it goes.
Right.
So as long as you guys have a great working relationship.
We do actually. We can walk into dispatch at any given time and ask them for information. They're a huge resource of ours actually, and we report to them every time that we're doing a home visit. We report to them over the radio, over dispatch, so they have us on their radar. They know where we're at. They have a 30-minute window on us. After 30 minutes, if they haven't heard us clear that scene, they do a safety check for us, or a welfare.
The picture of that white vehicle on the rat card We're known as County Health One over the intercom. And so we always report in when we go to an address, and we report when we're done for safety. And we work with the sheriff's office almost daily to gather information and keep it safe and help us to help the clients even better.
And then a couple more quick questions is, there's very excellent service providers in this matter. I'm totally familiar with that. It's probably one of the longest nonprofits that actually went through whatever the economy kind of went down, and they've been in operation for the last 35 years. Excellent. Mountain City's great.
Right, they are a
Unless-
phenomenal
yes.
resource for us. We talk to them probably, if
Every
not,
week?
yeah, every week we're constantly in contact with them. How can we be better? How can we do this? When we do that with a lot of our resources, the Huaque Pueblo has been a huge supporter of us as well. We did their youth summit, about a month ago? And that was very, what's the word?
Sobering.
It was, yes.
No, there was
It was.
800 students, and there was a program being put on by the Wahlberg Foundation about the opioid crisis. And at the end, one of the Wahlberg brothers, the movie star Mark Wahlberg, his brother was there, and he said, "Can everyone stand up who's lost someone or know somebody who's lost?" And 400 students stood up in the gym there, just to give you an idea of the gravity of the situation.
It was probably more than that. They had the middle school and the high school there together, and more than half of that school stood up, and that was very it was pretty scary. It scared me a little bit. But it was eye-opening in how important these programs can be.
And that not that, Madam Chair, not that any of these providers aren't great. They're all great, obviously they do, right? I'm just a lot more familiar with the Mountain Center.
Yeah, so are we, and they are
they're
all
all-
of them are great as well, but the Mountain Center really does work very closely. We work very closely with them, I should say.
And then also, Madam Chair, how we talked about educating the general public. How do y'all get this program to schools, centers, community centers? How are you?
We go to as many resource days as we can. We did the youth summit, we've done a lot of recovery days, we've done five
So
recovery days, I think?
in 5 months, we've done the Pewaukee Recovery Day, the Recovery Day downtown. We've done the Edgewood Public Safety Day. We've done the Tasuke Health Fair. We've done the Pewaukee High School. And then we're working on setting up a fire department tent at various hotspots around the county for 6-7 hours, to where we educate about the issue, give out Narcan free, resource books. That's kind of what we've come up with so far.
One of the things, keep in mind, and I didn't introduce Howard, this is Howard. He's
He's
our rescue breathing dummy, so we take him with us everywhere we go, in any house that we reach out, we take him in with us. And we offer them to train them on how to do rescue breathing on somebody that they might find that is not breathing, that is overdose, and how to go through the steps, which start with first identifying that they have overdose, so that they're not just sleeping, which, believe it or not, can be a mistake sometimes. How to call 911, how to try to wake them up, give them Narcan, start rescue breathing. And so we take this, not everybody is interested in learning how to do rescue breathing, which is okay. We try to meet them wherever they're at, whatever they're willing to do. We try to help them build on that and build the confidence to take on what they seem as a risk for them to try to save somebody's life. But we've had quite a few. All of our resource days we take this to. At the Pewaukee Recovery Day, I think I did about 20 trainings there with just individuals coming up asking about this. We try to do this in conjunction with handing out the Narcan every single time. Most people just want the Narcan, and that's okay too, but I always try to encourage them to learn how to do rescue breathing as well.
And what are
Go ahead.
go ahead.
And then also,
I'm sorry.
it seems like there appear to be tons of federal grants out there. Are we looking into federal grants, or do we apply for grants?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, this is actually funded by a federal grant that comes through the Human Services Department. And you're correct in terms of there are a lot of monies in terms of opiate issues right now available to states, and some of those are starting to filter down to counties.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation. I've been on this board a few years, and I remember even before I was elected, it was hard to just it added figuring out what's going on out there in the community. And now and it's grown to this sophisticated operation where you can really target where you need the emphasis. And education, that's great. I'm really impressed
Thank you.
with that.
Thank you. We're still learning and we're still growing on this. I mean, every day we learn something new.
We would help in that.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, I just wanted to, you know, I've already thanked you and told you how impressed I am, and you know that's true. One of the things you had mentioned at some point when we saw each other was it's really important to keep, the Narcan helps keep people alive, but then there has to be something afterwards, and that's what helps people. You know, the next step, now they're alive, and what's going to keep them from either going back or having, you know, what's helping them solve the problem. And so it's a much harder task than just handing out Narcan.
It is very
You guys
much.
do that, but I just wanted for emphasis to add that was something that impressed me about what you guys do.
Oh, if I may, I don't know how much time we have to spend on this, but
We're almost finishing.
one more, so I'll share with you, the individual that we took to detox and she completed the 30-day, she does a 5-day detox and then 21 days, so 26 days, 21-day rehab facility. When she got out, when she was done, she went right back to the situation where she overdosed. And she was sober for 2 months and she relapsed, which is very common. And she is now, she called us back up and asked us for help, and we took her back to detox and she didn't stay this time. She went home and we're still trying to help her. But that is the biggest factor that we've seen, is once they're done, once they're out and they do really well when they're in rehab. They do really well in this program, but once they get let out, they go right back to the situation where they were at, overdosing in. And there's not a whole lot of resources. Very few of them are self-motivated, is what I'll say. So if they don't have that resource in front of them, if they don't have somebody, for instance, like Mike and I, calling them and saying, is there anything else we can do for you? Do you want us to connect you with Bright Heart Health? Do you want us to take you to Santa Fe Recovery and get you to do an outpatient intake and get you connected with that? If they don't typically have this, being that this program is so new, and cities had it and cities done some great work with them, but being that county, this is very new for county and we're still getting out there. The more and more that we are out there, the more we hear that the fact that 2 people from the fire department specifically that wear a fire department uniform because they trust us, show up and show that we care, has been the biggest effect for them. We actually had a mom come to us and say that us showing up to her son's residence, and even though he didn't want Narcan and he didn't want the training, we still stayed there and talked to him for an hour and offered him any resource and just listened to him talk to us and listened to his story and offered any resource we could to him. He's been sober since, and it's been 3 months. And that was huge. And it was just the human interaction, somebody showing that they cared, that made the difference for that individual.
One person at a time.
One person at a time. Any other questions?
Just a comment.
Yes.
I just wanna thank you guys for the hard work and the dedication that you put forward. I mean, this is where we start making changes to our communities and to the way people think and the way the kids think. It's gonna be education. I mean, in history before, we had issues with drug abuse before, and it all came down to education. It seems when the education goes away, we start having these problems again.
Right.
So, you know, we had the teen center and different things like, you know, different services like that used to help, and those have since, you know, fell by the wayside. And so I think that has a huge impact on these coming back. And, you know, one other question I want to ask is it okay if we call you Team Quad M?
Sure. I hadn't thought about that one. But I will, I will say this, having a social worker to work aside, I've been in with Santa Fe County as a career staff is how they refer to us. I started out as a volunteer for 4 years, and I've been out in the field as a firefighter EMT for 11 and a half years, and I've never experienced this side of the work it's been very different for me, but I've loved every minute with it. But having a social worker I don't think I could do it without a social worker. Especially Mike, he deals with my, I'm a firefighter and I've been in the field a very long time. We're a very rough group to be around sometimes, and he handles it very well. So I'm very lucky to have a social worker work next to me, like Mike, that has the experience that he has. Yeah, it is true. We're a little rough.
I don't like the behavior here, what can I tell you?
Yeah, it's a different crowd.
Just one last comment. I know several family members are affected by this, and there's actually a young lady that she's totally clean. It's one of my best friend's daughters, and she's willing to go talk to individuals. And is there some sort of a program that she wants to go talk? She always tells me, Rudy, when can I go talk to people? I want to go talk to people. She wants to educate him as to this is where I was, this is where I am now. She's doing really good. She's the manager at a restaurant. She's probably 25 years old, 27. She's done really well. And I don't know if there's a type of program that
There is, she could be a peer support worker. And they are the individuals that have been in the exact same situation and have recovered and who are the living proof that recovery is possible and who go out there. Mike knows more about the program than I do.
Narcotics Anonymous, Santa Fe Recovery may have some volunteers come in and speak to their inpatient and outpatient groups. The hospital may have some, Christus may have some stuff also. Those are the couple that I know of.
A peer support worker would be huge also. I'll leave my card with you and you can give me a call and we'll try to find a program for her. Or connect her with the right people.
Listen, thank you.
Yes, you can. Anybody who wants a card. I mean, my number is on the back of the rack card or on the front of the rack card. This is my county number and my email and our office number. But I will give you my card as well. That way you don't forget my name. Anybody else?
Thank you so much for the information.
You're welcome. Thank you guys so much. And then, just so you know, this is what we hand out when we go to people's houses. This is what, and there's 2 of them in here. And if anybody's ever interested in seeing this training or what we do, we'd be more than happy to have any of you guys ride along with us and go see what it is that we do.
Fantastic. I highly recommend it to my colleagues.
One quick question, so if somebody wants to get Narcan, what way they can call you and you can put them through the training?
Yep, absolutely.
And they have to take the training, what if
Oh,
they've
yeah.
taken it before in the past?
I'm sorry?
If they've taken it before in
The
the past, do
training
they
or
have
the
like a
Narcan?
card or something? No,
No, they don't have a card, but we
No,
usually,
there's
I like to review over, and I do this with anybody. Even if they're like, I just want the Narcan, just give it to me, I'll be like, okay, well, real quick, and then I try to force it upon them on just a review.
And the reason why I'm asking is because I know that I had a family member that they had Narcan handy in case their son overdosed, and actually one of his friends came to the house and he used it on him. So they haven't said anything about wanting to get more, but I thought.
We would absolutely give them more. I mean,
Yeah.
like tomorrow, we would give them more.
Yeah, you give me a call.
The
We'll make
state
sure.
provides us unlimited Narcan to hand out, and they want us to hand it out.
When one of those is used, do you count that as a time that somebody may have been saved? If it's reported that it was used, or I mean, how do we?
Typically, they do, I mean, it's usually always in the ER report that we get, whether or not it's been law enforcement's been a huge advocate for this and they've been really huge. We've had a lot of them who've given Narcan because they're the first arrival on scene, they give it to them. That's happened quite a bit actually. But family members, we always try to get family members involved in this training. They're the ones who are gonna find them, they're the ones who are gonna give them the Narcan. So we try to reach out to them. We also try to reach out to families who have lost somebody to an overdose. A lot of times there's another individual that's suffering from this as well. And a lot of times they have other family members that may come in and out. And just so they can feel like they have a little bit of control over this again if it ever happened.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. Did he give you one? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Anybody else need a card or anything else for us? If not, we'll get out of your hair and let you go. Yeah. Okay, thank you all so much for letting us present to you. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so
You
much.
guys have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
That moves us to matters from the county manager. Manager Miller.
Madam Chair, pretty much what I have today for matters from the manager are to discuss the upcoming 54th legislative session and the schedule, also the resolution for New Mexico counties that Tessa Joe is gonna present, the legislative priorities for New Mexico counties. And then one that we had as well, that we've done in the last couple of years relative to our finances, but you should have, I think, in front of you or in their packet, in your packet is a schedule, and yeah, I'm bringing it up now because it'll be here before you know it. We have 2 more meetings before January, so and things start moving fast once we hit January relative to the session.
So which attachment you want us to look at first?
So in your, under 7A, go
Okay.
7A,
7A.
and it has the session, 2020 session dates and capital outlay deadlines as the attachment. And that gives you the session dates, December 16th through January 17th is when legislation may be pre-filed. So less than, or just a little over a month away. Then January 21st is the opening day of the session at noon. February 5th is the deadline for bill introduction. February 20th is when the session ends. It's a 30-day session, so it is a budgetary session, but the governor can put other things on the call. She has till March 11th to either pocket veto or sign legislation or veto. And then May 20th would be the effective date of legislation. It's not a general appropriation bill or a bill carrying an emergency clause or any other specified date. So those are the session dates. Oh, we did want to let you know we're going to do a breakfast since it is a 30-day session.
We're not doing dinner, just breakfast.
We're gonna do a breakfast. We've done that before during 30-day sessions. It's a good way to get all of the legislators together. It's hard to get them nailed down. And with so much that we already had going on, it's a little difficult to try to plan over the top of everything. We've done a breakfast where we do it over at the Capitol in one of the rooms. When we've done that, everybody shows up. They may not stay the whole time, but get them all, as opposed to dinner when we get a much smaller percentage. But we usually get them all at least for a little while, and we do it early enough that they're able to go on to their committee hearings and whatnot.
Is that already scheduled?
We're working on dates for that. We are also not going to do a Santa Fe County Day because it is a 30-day session. And so it's a little bit harder to get a county day in there. But we will resume that next year and in the 2021 session. And anything else, Tessa Jo, with the
I think there's a
plan?
question if you don't mind.
So you're wanting to do a morning breakfast instead of a dinner?
Yes.
Well, I think just to say on the record that I think that probably everybody knows that I have issues a lot of times with coming during the week for a morning thing, so I'll have to see if I can attend, so.
Okay, we'll try to work with your schedule as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's tough to balance it. If we do it, we tend not to be able to get any of the legislators if we wait until January for dinners. And when we do them earlier, everybody's taking their vacations before the session. So we struggle, so we've tried to kind of move them around so that while we may not get everybody every year, we get a different selection of them by doing them at different times. So, and with that then, if there's no other questions about the schedule, we'll turn it over to Tessa Jo to talk about the 2 resolutions.
Okay. Madam Chair, County Commissioners, as County Manager Miller stated, the legislative team is preparing for the 2020 legislative session. As such, the New Mexico counties has submitted their 2020 priorities to us that were approved during their October 2019 meeting. So they sent us 4 priorities. Within the first one, there's 3 different areas that they would like to cover under House Bill 2 appropriations. They would like to request funding to reimburse counties for the cost of housing state inmates. The cost to the counties under this act is approximately $8.4 million. And last year, the legislature only appropriated $2.3 million. So this is one thing that they will be advocating, the 8.4. In addition, they'd like to create a line item through DFA for $750,000 to reimburse sheriff's offices that provide transportation of state prisoners. They contemplated this last year and previously, but they did not complete it. And the third part of that is they would like to appropriate $5 million annually to EMS funding in the Department of Health budget and identify a designated revenue mechanism to provide continuous fund growth and stability. Okay, that's the first one. The second one, they would like to increase distributions to the Law Enforcement Protection Fund to enhance the efficiency and effectiveness of law enforcement activities. The third priority was behavioral health. They want to renew and expand funding for Human Services Department, and they'd like to provide behavioral health services to adults, juvenile offenders, housed in county detention centers. This would reduce the likelihood of recidivism, and they'd like to include targeted, individualized interventions that address detainee behavioral health needs.
Do you know how, is it appropriate for me?
Sure.
Do you know how much they're intending to institute their own programs or provide funding to each county center?
I believe they'd like to provide funding to the Human Services Department, and the way that they would distribute the
state
money
level.
would be, I believe it'd be at their discretion how they decide to
So
distribute.
that, okay.
So the fourth one would be PERA solvency. New Mexico public employers rates currently are among the highest in the country, and any further increases in county government are ultimately absorbed by the taxpayers. So that would be the New Mexico County's fourth priority. They usually send us their priorities and so that the Board of County Commissioners can adopt it, and this will enable the New Mexico Association of Counties to demonstrate statewide support on all of these initiatives.
Chair. I would like to move to approve resolution supporting the New Mexico County 2020 legislative priorities.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion?
Madam
I
Chair.
have a question. Yeah, go
Oh, I
ahead.
was gonna give you some information on the parasolvency. So they had a task force this past year to look at the para funds. There are multiple funds within the overall para retirement system. And the local government's retirement fund is actually 85 to 90% funded. Unfortunately, when they look at having employers contribute more, it's the actual fund that state employees are in that is significantly dragging down the overall solvency of the funds. So the Municipal League and Association of Counties, New Mexico counties really feel strongly about, don't put more of this on the local government's back to make that more solvent. So there's lots of different ways they can attack solvency. Unfortunately though, for local governments, we end up with that liability on our financial statements because they spread it out to all the participants. They don't break it down by fund. So what the plan we pay into the local government plan, and that one is pretty solvent. It's almost, like I said, it's like 85% funded. It's the state plan, and that they don't separate them, and for purposes of financial reporting on audits, it's also not separated. It's based on number of employees you have. So I just let you know that because it is something for us to watch for, that local governments don't get tapped with trying to fix the solvency that the state plan really needs to make greater contributions. Most of your local governments make higher contributions than the state. And the retirees that come out of them, it's just funded better.
Well, it's confusing because on the surface, this seemed like something that was a responsible idea. If they're underfunded and we carry the liability, it makes sense that the state should try to boost those funds, especially the state one that's in the least good shape. But what you're saying makes it sound like there's a hidden liability also to the counties. If this goes through, that they won't distribute the funding well and will be asked to support more than what we already are doing essentially.
Madam Chair, it's not a distribution issue. They take a look at they don't separate out for purposes of solvency solutions, they don't separate out each plan. And our plan, the local government plan, municipal
pretty
plan is
good,
what it's
yeah.
called, is well funded. It's the state employee plan that's not well funded. And so if the legislature wants to fix the problem, they need to actually make so that the state as an employer pays more in contributions, not the counties and the municipalities.
So
this,
suspect
the
that's
point
not
of
what they're
number
gonna do.
4, well, it's just that's not typically the way legislation reads. They don't typically go, for plan 1, 2, and 3, the employer will have a greater contribution, and for plan 4, 5, and 6, they'll have a lower contribution.
Is that
So-
something we can lobby for specifically?
Well, I just pointed out, because I think that's something we need to watch for, that we don't end up getting, and why why New Mexico counties chose that one as one of their priorities was that issue. It's not that they don't want to support things that make the parafund more solvent, because it's in everybody's best interest, since we all have to report the liability on our financial statements. It's just that we're not separated out from that overall liability. We are counted as a percentage based on number of employees or based on payroll. So it's unfortunate, but it's just something to watch for, because if they do put bills through, one of the solvency measures that came out of the task force is to increase employer contributions, and we already make a significant contribution. So that's the point of number 4 and why they picked it.
Well, that addresses part of what my question to you was gonna be as part of discussion before we have a vote, and that was that, well, the other 3 certainly also sound like they could hit things there, some of them hit things that are county priorities, so they're obviously priorities for other counties as well, NACO's taking them up. But to what extent do you think the first 3 also address Santa Fe County issues in a way that's useful to us and as well as to the group of counties?
So in House Bill 2 appropriations, Madam Chair, we do receive funds from all 3 of those, or we have expenditures in all 3 of those areas. So the way the distribution for detention fund reimbursement is based upon how many inmates your county detention facility houses during the year as a percentage of the total around the state. And by law, the state is supposed to pay for us housing those probation and parole violators. But and the fund used to have $5 million in it. It was never quite enough, but that was much closer. The legislature during the economic downturn kept peeling off some of that. So we're reimbursed on a percentage basis of whatever the pot is. So if we're 10%, we only get $230,000 right now, and if it were 8.4 million, we could get 840,000. So, and that's if we're 10% of those inmate days. Also, prisoner transport and extradition. Currently, the state does not reimburse counties for their the sheriffs taking inmates from between detention facilities, state inmates, and to the state corrections. Also, EMS funding, we do receive funds, but the amount of funds that are received it's almost more paperwork than what we get. And so this has been an effort at the state level to get an EMS fund with some real appropriations in it that would benefit all the entities, particularly real small rural areas that don't receive much funding at all. Law Enforcement Protection Fund, same thing, we do receive funds from that. It's minimal though. It's for protective gear and equipment for the sheriff's deputies. It's based on number of deputies. And what goes into the fund is based on fines. A lot of the money goes to the courts, goes to AOC, and not enough goes to the law enforcement side of it. So they're trying to increase the distributions from the fund to the sheriff's deputies. And behavioral health, this was something kind of new last year where they sent some funding to Human Services Department to try to address issues in local detention facilities. They wanted to make that a recurring and increased funding source so that Human Services would work with local detention facilities to provide programs that help target behavioral health issues.
So the obverse side of that question is what priorities aren't here that might be really important to Santa Fe County? That might be part of a subsequent discussion.
Madam Chair, I think that's a good question. I think many of these, they did focus on them being budgetary because of it being a fiscal 30-day session, so they didn't expand a lot of other priorities into areas that they didn't know whether the governor would put them on the call. So they tried to focus on financial matters and increase funding to the local governments for programs that we're burdened with based upon state law.
Commissioner Garcia?
Just Madam Chair, are these the only 4 priorities that the New Mexico counties are coming forward?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Garcia, these are the ones that the executive board and their overall membership voted on as their priorities. What they do throughout the session though, as bills are introduced, they do they have meetings with their board and they take things back for votes throughout the session. But these are the only ones, Commissioner Garcia, that they took as priorities going into the session. And that will be their how they do their little card that says these are our priorities. That'll be what they're putting forward.
Thank you. And also, Madam Chair, does the New Mexico counties know if any of these are on the governor's call?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Garcia, they know that House Bill 2 will clearly be there, so they focused predominantly on trying to get legislation that would be considered germane. Anything in House Bill 2 obviously is, and then legislation that would increase funding to any fund, fire fund, law enforcement protection fund, EMS fund, those would be considered germane because they would be budgetary. Same with the behavioral health, and I do believe parasolvency is going to be one that's on there that will be germane. So I think that was the other thing that they tried to focus into things that they knew they would be able to lobby for, because they would already either be in House Bill 2 or they would be germane based upon being a budget session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wardle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to also emphasize that, I sit on the executive board, so whatever issues or things that you guys want me to champion, let me know so I can bring them forward as we go into the legislative session. Because as Manager Miller indicated, we will be having other board meetings during that time to determine if we have any other pieces of legislation we wanna push for. So just so you know that.
Is there any further discussion? Yes, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Thank you very much. So next,
Madam Chair, Commissioners, this resolution is a resolution that we typically bring before you annually. It opposes any legislation that could negatively affect Santa Fe County revenues, programs, or services. Throughout the course of the legislative session, There's bills being proposed and introduced constantly, and this resolution enables us to oppose anything that could limit things that have been identified by the BCC through strategic planning, investment policies, and constituent services. This would basically help us to uphold the services that Santa Fe County provides at the level that we already provide it. And this would give us the right to advocate for that purpose.
Excellent. And by the way, who's the team this year?
Well, it's myself, Hutchie Miller, County Manager Miller, and Interim Deputy County Manager Schaefer.
Excellent, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move to approve this resolution opposing any negative legislation that negatively affects Santa Fe County revenue program of service.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? So I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Fabulous.
Chair Hamilton, for the record, the two resolutions you just passed in sequential order are 2019-137 and 138. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Chairman. So. Are there other matters from the county manager?
Madam Chair, yes, that's what I was yelling down the hallway. So we have a presentation and requesting direction concerning a working group on recreational shooting on federal land near San Pedro, Camel Tracks, and Arroyo Alamo. As you know, we've had dialogue, I think numerous times relative to shooting on federal lands that gets in close to housing areas or where people hike and or just in general where there's residents who oppose that shooting. And we have put a group of staff that have been working with BLM and Game and Fish, and they've come up with a proposal, and we wanted to get some direction on whether you would like us to move forward with assembling a working group.
Well, I don't think I got one, just.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not your bad, it's my bad.
I've been running around.
And I have to tell you that Paul is pulling like quadruple duty today, so be kind to him. He also very shortly has to go over to the H board of the city to talk about 102 grant, so he's been putting that presentation together, this one, helping with the ribbon cutting, so he's relatively fatigued. So be nice.
Okay, thank you, thank you for that. That's the best opening I've had in a long time.
Commissioner Henson?
I just wanna let you know that I have invited also for this presentation, Mark Jackson from BLM and James Malonis from Forest Service and Sam Wertheim from Las Campanas, who is a professional shooter and has worked with other shooting ranges throughout Santa Fe County.
Thank you very much. So Paul.
Okay, Madam Chair, what we have before you today is, as Manager Miller explained, we've been working and discussing since July with the BLM Taos Field office, and that's Mark Jackson's office, along with the Forest Service, New Mexico Game and Fish, and other entities as available, and the Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office, regarding 3 shooting areas. And attached with your memo is a map, and that map will depict the 3 areas, which are Alamo Arroyo, which is in District 2 near the Las Campanas. There's the Camel Tracks shooting area, which is right on the border of District 2 and District 3 near La Cienega, and then the San Pedro shooting area, which is down in San Pedro, again in District 3. Basically, all these agencies have received complaints and citizen concerns over the last few years regarding unregulated or recreational shooting that doesn't have a lot of direction or controls placed on it. And so in our discussions, we have looked at many of the varied issues regarding shooting on federal land, and I can ask our agency friends to discuss more about the federal regulations, but the short answer is that we're unable to restrict or control shooting on federal land. It is open, but we have an ability to maybe do some minor improvements to shooting areas, not minor, but some improvements to shooting areas, and by doing improvements that allows then the federal agencies to put some controls on, which could be direction, aim the direction of the shooting, put times and hours of use, etc. So there is an opportunity for funding, and this would also, provide more safety for the areas, and especially a direction of fire, hours of operation. There's the potential for on-site staffing at some point, and there's also additional enforcement mechanisms once an area is established as a shooting area versus just recreational shooting that happens to be people congregate in the same place, but it's not a designated area. So there is a federal funding opportunity through the Pittman-Robertson Act, and this allows for basically a 90%, 10% grant that could be used for both planning as well as improvements. And this could be done for one or all three of the sites. And we would, the federal agencies have restrictions on how they are able to participate in that process. But if they have a partner agency such as the county to work with them and help provide for the planning process, they are more free to then directly participate in it. So what we're here to ask for the board tonight is direction to continue meeting with these agencies and with the knowledge that we will most likely come back at some future date asking for a more formal direction to continue with the planning process, and it'll be a public open process, and we want to make it as transparent and effective as possible. And we'd also be asking for some type of funding in the future. And I don't think it would be a huge amount of money, but we want to make the board aware that this is the direction the process is heading and get direction from the board to continue moving forward. And I'll ask Mark or James if you have anything to add.
Yeah, just real quickly, the key issue is that the places where people like to go and shoot just happen to be right next door to neighborhoods in two of these places. And because of that, the neighborhoods are having to deal with these issues. And as you know, there's just not a lot of federal regulation to restrict recreational shooting on public land. And in fact, our agency is really charged with trying to improve opportunities for recreational shooting and access on public lands. And so knowing this, we feel confident that trying to get any sort of restrictions or closing areas to shooting are going to be difficult. And so as we've looked at this, it really seems like our best path forward is to try and enhance some areas, provide some environmental measures, some safety controls, some level of management, and basically make it a much more a better opportunity for shooting and better opportunities for the neighboring landowners as well.
I have a question in that regard, if I'm not preempting anybody else. Is this a matter of you can't prevent anybody from doing recreational shooting any place they like, but if we develop a shooting range and a facility, we can encourage them to be there, but you can't enforce them not to shoot any place else, even if you do have the range? Is that what I'm hearing?
Sort of. It's a tricky situation. So if you're right, and it's a good point, because when we build a range, we don't want people to continue shooting in the old place. Yet we don't have any way to tell them no. Except if we were to do something like make these areas developed recreation areas and establish it as a recreation site, then we would be able to put a no shooting restriction. But in order to do that, on other areas, but in order to do that, we've got to have some place for them to go, because it doesn't make any sense to close an area and there's no place to go, because they're going to end up going somewhere and it could be worse than the current place.
Sure. Commissioner.
I'll just say, I'm James Malonis, the forest supervisor on the Santa Fe National Forest, so, you know, we've been working closely, we have the Caja del Rio, which is on the forest adjacent to a lot of this BLM land that's having similar issues. There is a process that we can actually do a closure, at least on the Forest Service side. There was a recent legislation that made that a higher bar for us to go over to do that. But I think with working together with the county and BLM and Game and Fish has been really great helping with us with this as well. If we have those opportunities for recreational shooting in the appropriate place with, you know, safety in mind and everything, I think, you know, we could look at moving through that legislative process that was recently enacted to actually look at some closures, especially around these residential areas.
Thanks for that. Commissioner Wendell.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I know in my district, I live in the Milwaukee Valley area, and I know that, you know, there is a lot of shooting that happens on BLM land between those different areas, and there might even be some of those areas that are areas of concern, but I think that if we made it, like I was telling Commissioner Hanson, if we had shooting ranges and they're 20 miles from your house and you have 5 miles, you can be on federal property to shoot in an area where if you're in an arroyo, it's pretty much not really a hazard to anybody if you're shooting in the right direction. But you know, I wanna make sure that if when we do this, if we do move forward, we're trying to close certain areas down, I think it has to be convenient because people are still gonna go somewhere else to shoot. And so I personally, you know, have, you know, quite a few firearms that I like to go out and shoot and make sure they're sighted in, clean them, make sure that everything's working on the property. And so, you know, and there's a lot of times hunters, when they're hunting, they don't go too far from camp to try and sight in their rifles and see if they're working. So I know that it's a tricky situation, but you know, I think that it would be great, you know, I would rather instead of going into an area where there isn't targets, you know, to go somewhere where there actually is, because you know, I usually go to the Rio Grande Sportsman's Complex, but before I would go there, and that costs, you know, quite a bit of money a year, you know, and there's people that can't afford it, you know, they can barely afford to buy their hunting license and ammunition, much less go and pay a yearly cost or something like that. So if we did have an area like that, would it be free to the general public to use? Do you have to take their own targets, or how would that work?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, take this. In our discussions, nothing has been decided at all. We wanna have this more open, transparent process to really get to these issues, but that has been one of the common statements and concerns, that if we make changes that are so inconvenient or onerous, it will have no effect. And we also wanna be very cognizant that we don't wanna just take one person's problem and move it to another person's backyard. So there's a lot of balance about what can we do that's convenient and et cetera. And we've talked about fee or no fee, and I think the preference at this point is no fee. But again, we have to get down that path of really putting some more detail to it. Also that I think I'm not in the shooting community, but we're working with Game and Fish and our other partner agencies. There has been a lot of talk about if you do make it a nicer site where maybe there is some targets and you can really, you know, sight in your rifles, and there's different facilities that don't have to be really fancy or, you know, super expensive. But the majority of shooters would probably want to go to a place that's more that's still convenient but more conducive to a good experience.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia.
Just a couple of concerns that I have. These are actually in my district. Actually, one of them is, two of them are in my district, and I just want to caution the commissioner that brought this forward, because what happens in San Pedro, as we all know, whenever you put this on the public record, now everybody says, "Oh, there's a shooting range out there. Let's lay off and let's start shooting." And that's exactly what happened in the San Pedro neighborhood. They wanted to talk with BLM and they wanted to stop. They went to the papers. They went to the Albuquerque Journal. The next thing you know, everybody from Albuquerque is flooding to San Pedro to go shooting out there. And so I'm just interested if we actually move forward and let's see how we can handle this stuff and how we need to handle this stuff, is because it all comes down to enforcement. We enforce this stuff. Because in the San Pedro area, thanks to the sheriff's department, it's right off of a state road that they actually help out with Game and Fish patrolling the area. You know, and I know it is kind of hard because I talked to one of the planning staff as to whenever you're in public land, the forest, or you're in BLM, you can shoot from sunrise to sunset. And sometimes it's unfortunate there in the San Pedro area where they're shooting all day long over there. sounds like the National Guard. That when you drive the National Guard and they shoot there all day long practicing, it's the same thing that's happening down the San Pedro. So just caution, because once this becomes public, you know, it's kind of like shooting is a very challenging topic, obviously throughout the nation, and what happens and where it does and how it happens, and just want to bring that forward and hopefully get myself involved in it, and definitely my community's involved, because they're the people that and obviously individuals that are sitting back here, and they're, because they need to be involved, and a lot of these communities are not going to want it. There's some communities that want shooting because people don't have, and it's a very, very touchy subject, so just want to caution. But thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, I think you're very accurate in those points.
Commissioner Hanson.
Yeah, so Commissioner Garcia, I would really encourage you to meet with these partners that we have put together, because we have been working very seriously about all of these considerations. And even this picture of the locations of these places are, you know, like the camel track location is not at the camel track location where it is at the present moment. We're trying to move it further back away from there, which is might even be in my district at that point. And we're also really trying to engage the community. I have, you know, numerous communities who are quite upset and want to see this problem solved. I feel that working with all the partners, and I would really like you to join in on these meetings, Commissioner Garcia. I think it is really important for all of us to work together on this issue, because this is something that needs to be solved. Having shooting next to residential homes is dangerous. And I can just say that after we went into the Las Campanas HOA annual meeting, and Mark and James both went, and Paul and Maria went with me. The Las Campanas administration building, one of the trucks was shot at from a high-powered rifle on Forest Service land. So, you know, I think that this is something really important that we have to work on together, and I would like to make a motion to continue to work forward with this task force. And please include Commissioner Garcia. We want you at the table, and we want to work on solving this problem. So I'm making that motion, and then I also want to state that Sam Wortham, who has experience with other shooting ranges throughout the county and state, that there are people who could actually run some shooting facilities at a lower price. Like if they went in there with rifles, it would be like $2 to shoot. But if they're going in there with a high-powered gun, then it would be more. So there are ways to also possibly recoup some money, but we also all know very seriously that in order for this to work, we need to make it free, and we need to make it available to people so that they will stop shooting in neighborhoods, you know, and behind people's doors, behind their houses.
Thank you. Just really quick on that, it's a very touchy subject, as it was in the school system. Whenever we were receiving money from the NRA for ROTC, over $120,000 a year, the school board decided not to accept that money because gun violence throughout the nation. I understand that. And as the great Ernie Mills actually mentioned when he was an ex-reporter for Kiswatter Radio, that mighty roundhouse that he used to call it, whenever gun legislation comes up, it's going to be a very hot topic. And we just want to make sure you're aware of that, because the state legislature has challenges with this type of stuff.
And I recognize that, but this is about health and safety of our citizens and protecting neighborhoods. I happen to have, La Tierra Nueva, which is right behind Alamo Creek, where people are having shooting happening 24/7. And, having to have the sheriff come out there, and having to have, using a lot of resources. BLM has hired another ranger to be out there, which is really helpful, but so I am making a motion to continue to move forward with this working group.
I'll second that, just because a lot of this is my district and I actually need to be involved in this.
Yeah, I want you to be involved.
And then also, just on that note, since we're on the discussion, Madam Chair, is in regards to I guess I'll say, I already seconded the motion, so I wanna see where this goes, thank you.
So under discussion, we have some other guests, would you like to
If I may,
add something to the?
Madam Chair.
Oh, really quick, Madam Chair, just really quick, and just always keep in mind, Commissioner, there are responsible gun individuals out there, just because we have a time or two of people that actually
And Sam is one of them.
Sam?
Madam Chair, Commissioners.
So am I.
I'm a resident of Santa Fe County for 20 years. As Commissioner Hanson has mentioned, I'm a frequent shooter. And I'd like to give you a citizen's and a neighbor's perspective, if I might. It's already been explained what our issues are, people shooting close proximity to residences and other people traffic. In the state of New Mexico, there's 28 public ranges. It's been 25 years, to my knowledge, that there has not been a public range in Santa Fe County. Yet our population has grown, our footprint has grown. Now we see adjoining residential areas to traditional shooting areas. People don't know where else to go. They don't have another place to go. They would like to be in an organized, safe place where they could even receive instruction. With perhaps 100,000 inhabitants in this county, I would say you could put your own number on there, but probably half of the households have a firearm. No place for training. Closest public range, 60 miles. I think by providing a safe and organized place to shoot, you will see much, if not most, or even all of the shooting, as we call it, unregulated in BLM and National Forest lands go down, if not away. Organized shooting clubs in the area would certainly support this activity. This opportunity to solve the problem is backed up by funding from Pittman Robertson, which provides 90% of the funding if the county will put up 10%. That's a pretty good deal. That funding is sportsmen's money, their own money they've paid as they purchase items to pursue their recreational activity and sporting. I think it would be a great public relation activity for the public. There are other people here who can speak to the support of the public, but I can tell you over the last 4 years, we have accumulated over 1,000 people who have signed a petition saying, we want a public range. We want to go someplace that Game and Fish has provided for us. For example, I'll be happy to organize those people to come and show public support if you need it. Any questions I'll be glad to take, but I think you understand a citizen's point of view of why it's needed.
Thank you. So I believe is there further discussion? I think I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any abstentions? Thank you very much for doing this work. Thank you for coming and for waiting for us.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, thank you very much.
So I think that takes us to matters from the county commissioners. I assume we might wanna do the recognitions first and then do A, which is other general announcements. So Commissioner Garcia, do you want the recognition of Jose Raul Lopez as New Mexico Cattleman of the Year? I have your contact information. I think we're just waiting to get our moderator. Yes, Commissioner Garcia went to get the person that was supposed to be on there.
Oh, okay, good.
Did you find him?
I guess I'm really. So we can just table, so I guess tonight.
Well, we can go to the next one and just see if we can locate him, and if not, we can just postpone until next, essentially table it until next meeting. Commissioner Roybal, do you have the Espanola Pathways Shelters?
I think they're here.
So if you could get them, we might have to get some official runners, monitors for them.
See our liaisons.
Yeah, I don't know where a lot is.
I mean,
It's our first meeting, so.
yeah, we'll figure out how to do it more smoothly, but as we see how these things go, we'll be able to give them a little heads up and have a liaison or something to go get them, like the next item next. Don't be too long. We seem to be at recess.
You seem to be.
No quorum, no activities.
Oh, yeah.
No?
Yeah, they're walking up the hall. I guess they must have some.
In the conference room,
Yeah.
because it's
Televising on that other side.
Yeah,
Your
it's
person might be there
televising.
too.
If we could get them both here, because they're not usually such long presentations.
There's a couple of people that aren't quite here yet. He said they'll probably start.
For your presentation?
Yeah. Sure. Oh,
I think that she's made executive session about 2 months.
Well, finance happens to be our
We just go past, zoom right past.
Cause are we waiting for people to get, we're waiting for people to get.
Just for the, in the BCC matters for the commissioners,
So is it coming? Oh, no, it's not yours. That's Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy said, Commissioner Garcia said he wasn't sure if he was here or not.
I would recognize him, I haven't seen him come in.
Sorry,
I haven't seen him come in, I would recognize him, I know him, but I have not seen him come in.
So we can table till next time, or if
We'll find out from Amber whether he was.
that's what Commissioner Garcia was a little, couldn't find out.
He can't hide.
He just went out and couldn't find her and came back in. I don't know where he looked for sure.
Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Hi, welcome.
Hello.
These are the presenter seats.
Yes.
In the middle.
Move a little more that way.
Who's our guest?
Yes, well, you can't find all of these commissioners.
No, this
Jose's
is-
not here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
This is eight seat.
Oh. Pathway shelter, okay.
Alright, we got 1 out of 5.
Boy, do we ever not have a
Alright,
quorum.
obviously we're gonna break for a while.
Oh, that's great, thank you.
interesting challenge.
It is, it's harder to, because, what we have to anticipate some 2 items ahead, how about if you want to round up the next, and some things take longer and some. Oh, thank you.
Well, I thought it was, but like.
Yeah, they're just missing a forum right now. In other words, I'm it.
They're calling a timeout. Yeah, I've been watching you guys from the big screen and then you guys.
I had to call the timeouts, but apparently.
So I went to go find Penny because I was like, and nobody
Amber's just
I've been
parking.
looking for that.
And did you get hear from James?
I know, it must have, Penny was helping me look for. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. It was nice to meet Orlando too.
Oh, yeah.
Put a face to the emails.
So, okay. Okay. Any second now, Commissioner's just gonna walk in, we're gonna lock the doors.
Yeah. I don't know. He didn't answer.
Right outside, just wanted. Thank you.
I'll fill in for him until he gets here. Hopefully, Amber's coming. Did you hear from Jen? No. Let me see. Are these all? Leave my hat on, is that too? I didn't sweat.
How are you guys doing? Welcome to our new building.
What a building, I was gonna say, wow. Beautiful building.
We're not going to, this is actually, we're gonna temporarily have our BCC meetings in here for the next 6 months while the other buildings being renovated, and then we'll go back to that one, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool.
So this is our first meeting here, so nobody knows what's going on except the logistics.
Yeah, I thought this was like the norm since you guys had moved in. I'm not sure. How long have you guys been in this building?
Today's the first day.
Today's
just did
actually
the-
the first day.
Ribbon cutting this morning.
Wow, really?
Yeah. They've been moving in for a couple of weeks, but officially.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I live nearby and I would walk by and I would think, well, this is gonna take a year to put up, but 2 weeks ago or something, and I'm like, wow, here I am sitting here.
Isn't it amazing?
They just called me, so
Yeah.
it's perfect.
It's unbelievable.
Hi, oh good, welcome. Oh, can't breathe. Stay relaxed. So I think we can go with them to stay. So we're on item 8C, presentation on the Espanola Pathway Shelters. So Commissioner Roybal, do you want to start it out and
Thank you,
and
Madam
welcome
Chair.
everybody?
Thanks. So I just wanna say welcome to, these are actually a lot of a big part of the group that actually is the foundation behind getting this homeless shelter going. You know, they've done a great job. I sat down already twice with them and also toured the facility they're looking at turning into the homeless shelter. Have a really great path forward and plan for this shelter. You know, it is in my district, within the city limits of Espanola, but in my district, so they're in Santa Fe County. Which I said earlier tonight that, you know, 40% of the population of the city is within our county and within my district. I think this is a great opportunity for the county to partner and work side by side with this shelter. They're gonna have, you know, really great services they're gonna provide. They have a presentation tonight that they're gonna be sharing, and I'm just really happy to be a part of helping out with them. And I think that Santa Fe County as a whole can contribute to the path forward that they're trying to find here and what they're working on. I think it's gonna be it's gonna provide great services. It's a facility that's been needed for a very long time in the Espanola, city of Espanola. I think it's gonna be awesome. You know, I think that they have the opportunity to expand almost 4 or 5 times larger than what they're gonna start with. So I think it's something that can really take off and really benefit the city of Espanola and possibly even you know, some of the other rural communities that are in the area that are Santa Fe County. You know, so with that I wanna turn it over to our presenters tonight, but
Also, I wanna just ask that you guys make sure and state your name for the record and who you guys work for. I know we have some city employees as well, right? Okay, so I'll turn it over to you guys, whoever wants to start, I think we all.
For the record, my name is Ralph Martinez. Commissioners, Ms. Clerk, Ms. Attorney, City Manager, thank you guys first and foremost for this time, for allowing us to be able to present this initiative that is very important to us. So my name is Ralph Martinez. I was born and raised in Espanola Valley. I'm 41 years old. I have 4 children and 3 grandchildren. And I graduated in 1996 from Espanola Valley High. In 2001, I became addicted to drugs, cocaine and heroin. And by 2006, I was spiraling out of control. In 2006, I lost my family, I lost my home, and I lost my self-identity. Found myself homeless in mid-2006. I lived underneath the bridge when you first drive into Espanola, right next to the Johnny's Auto Parts. I lived underneath the bridge by the La Cocina. Lived over in the Bosque area in the Ronchito side of town, down Cardane. I lived in many different abandoned buildings, abandoned cars, things of that sort. I was addicted from 2001 to 2012, 11 years, a period of 11 years. During my time of addiction, I went to rehab in San Diego. I went to rehab in South Florida. I went to rehab twice in Farmington. I went to rehab in Hernandez, and my last stop was in 2012 at Hoy. When I got to 2012, when I got to that point in life, there was a lot of accepting that I had to do. Looking back at my life, a lot of trials and errors that I had went through. And so by the grace of God, I was able to plant my feet back on the ground and move forward. I've been clean now for 7 years. Right now, I currently work at Los Alamos National Laboratory. I've been there for a little over 4 years. Just got my Q clearance about a little over a year ago. And I've had a chance at reestablishing life. This initiative got started last November. I got to Walmart, and it was around the time that it was the first cold front. And as I got down, I remember thinking, man, it's getting cold tonight. It was about 10:30 at night, and I was going to get some stuff for groceries for the week. And I put my jacket on, and as I was walking towards Walmart, I noticed 3 individuals sitting on the curb at the entrance to the Walmart. These 3 individuals I recognized because I've always kept pretty close ties with individuals that are going through that struggle because of my own personal struggle. Some of these individuals that are on the streets today in Espanola, I shared space with them at a time that I was homeless. And so as I approached them, I noticed them. It was 3 individuals. It was Emmanuel, it was Cody, and it was Jacob. And so we stopped and we got into conversation. Told them that it was gonna start getting cold. I asked them what their plans were. Cody turned to me. He said, "I'm pretty well prepared." He lifted up his shirt. He had 5 shirts on and 3 pairs of pants. And I asked him, "That's good. You're bundled up, but where are you staying?" And he said, "Well, I got spots." And anyone that's ever lived homeless knows that means you find wherever you can for the night. And so I talked with Emmanuel. Me and Emmanuel shared space together when I was homeless, and we talked about some of the winters that we had went through in the years before. Little Jacob, I've known Jacob for a while, and so we all conversated for about an hour. So when I left, I got home, and I just really felt the struggle that they were about to face, knowing that I was going to get cold. It took me back, actually. That night I laid in bed, and it took me back to the winter of 2007. I was homeless in the winter of 2007, and in that year they claimed a state of emergency in northern New Mexico. PNM, something happened with PNM. It was cold. It was freezing. The gas lines froze. Yeah, and I was homeless then, and I remember feeling like I barely made it out of that winter alive. And so I felt the pain that they were about to face. And so that night I was in bed. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I said, "You know what? I can't wait." So I got my phone, And I shot a mass text to every individual that I had made contact with since, me being sober. City councilmen, the mayor, commissioners, judges, district attorney, faith-based organizational leaders, or organization leaders, everybody that I thought could have some sort of power to be able to do something about it. And so I shot out a text, and the following morning, well, actually that night, Roger Montoya responded like immediately, and then the following morning, Chris Madrid, the county economic development director for Rio Arriba County, he responded, and we began this initiative. In early February, we got a phone call from, we immediately started to go and visit different shelters. We had a lot to learn, and so we immediately went out and started to visit other shelters. Went to the Taos Men's Shelter, we came up to St. Elizabeth, we started making phone calls, going to meetings, things of that sort. And we gained some momentum right away with the project. We got a phone call in February, I think it was February, from Joseph Sanchez, state representative, said, I hear what you guys are doing down in the valley, I want to be a part of it. He appropriated us $225,000 reoccurring funds through junior appropriation to the legislature, which has really been the fuel for our gas driving this car. And so we've been blessed in that way. I can sit here and I can talk about experiences, I could talk about feelings, I could talk about emotions. A lot of times we look at facts. Right? Facts are very important. And the fact is that a facility like Pathway Shelter has never existed in our area, so we don't really know the concrete data of the need. I know growing up as a kid in the early 80s, I would go to town with my grandma or my mom, and we were sure to see one of two individuals, if not those two individuals, and anybody that was around Espanilla knew who these two individuals were, Salomon and Petra. And at the time, you were sure to see one of those two individuals, and those were the only two. Come the late 80s, early 90s, a gentleman by the name of William appeared, and he became number 3. And all of a sudden, as the years started to go by, I mean, you drive through Espanilla now, and you can't even begin to count them without losing focus of what you're doing behind the wheel. So the fact is that the issue has grown, and even when I was homeless, when I stepping out of my homelessness in 2012, knowing the circle of people that were facing this issue, I've seen the growth. I've personally seen the growth from 2012 to today, and so with that momentum, after the junior appropriation, we've just got a team of some super great people to jump on in, and we've come a long way. We just recently, about a month ago, through planning and zoning in Espanilla, got approved unanimously for a special use permit for the facility. First time that has ever happened. I know a facility like this has been tried and failed. I think it's been 3 times in the past 15 years, for whatever reason, I don't know, but this time is different. And so I just kind of wanted to lay that foundation down going into our next presenter.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph.
Yes.
Yeah. My name's Mateo.
Hey, Mateo, just real quick, I just want to say thank you for your presentation, but I also want to recognize James Martinez, the County Commissioner for District 1, Rio Arriba. And also our Deputy County Treasurer joined us as well, so I just want to recognize they're both board members on this Espanilla Pathway Shelter. So just thank you guys for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, thank you, Commissioner Roybal. We really appreciated your leadership. My name is Mateo Piscino, and I'm came on board to help find the facility and assess different properties that might work. And then I ended up being the chair of the board for the Pathway Shelter. So there you go. So everyone else is presenting. I just kind of helped work with Orlando, who's such a great help in getting everybody here. So yes, we do have Commissioner Martinez, and then Amber is from Health and Human Services, and she's on our board. And of course, Jennifer's on our board too. So we've got an amazing collaboration going, and I'll let them take it from there. So Commissioner
Alright.
James, you're gonna.
Thanks, Mateo.
Yeah, and I think you
good
have in
afternoon.
your packets our information.
Yes.
Yeah,
Great.
so, great.
Well, good afternoon again. Thank you for your time. Thanks for allowing us to be here this afternoon. By the way, a beautiful building. And I apologize for my tardiness. I had not been here before, so I was trying to find a parking, but that's why. But I'm glad to be here. Like Commissioner Roybal said, I know, and I found a beautiful, easy parking finally. So thank you for that. But like Commissioner Roybal said, I do represent Rio Arriba County, so I sit on your side of the table in our county, and I'm thankful to do so. But you know, like Ralph, I was born and raised in Rio Arriba County, in the beautiful Espanola Valley, as many of us like to say, and raised in Chimayo, another beautiful area, and a graduate of Espanola Valley High. I went on to the University of New Mexico, and then went back. I went back to Chimayo to give back, like all of us here in this room, to give back to our communities. And I'm thankful for that. I thank God for the opportunity, my family, and like all of us here, I know we all have so many different roles and responsibilities. So in addition to my role as a county commissioner representing District 1 of Rio Arriba, I'm also an associate pastor at the Rock Church in Espanola. I'm also a therapist. I serve as a contractor for the Espanola Public Schools. I'm a dad and I'm a husband, and I'm a concerned citizen, like all of us. And so when Ralph and Roger and Christopher Madrid began this discussion and conversation, I immediately wanted to be a part of it, because as a concerned citizen, as a Christian also, I know that God has called us to meet the need of our brothers and sisters in our communities. And so it was important for me to do what I could to support this effort. And I know all of us here as board members are also, we're in it for the right reasons, because we care, we see the need. We know that it's long overdue. This will be the first shelter of its kind in the Espanola Valley, in northern New Mexico, aside from Santa Fe, of course, and Taos. And so, like Ralph said, this effort has been attempted, but has not gone even this far. And so, you know, I'm here, of course, as a commissioner as well, but as a board member, and I want to continue the work that Rio Arriba and Santa Fe counties have done together before. I've had the privilege in my short, 11 months as commissioner. I'm newly elected, started in January of this year. Already, Commissioner Roybal and I have been fortunate, blessed to have been able to work together on some projects that have benefited both of our counties and the residents that live there. You know, it's interesting how Espanola shares Santa Fe and Rio Arriba County. Where I live in Chimayo, you know, one side of the state highway 76 is in Santa Fe County, right? And the other side is in Rio Arriba County. And so I'm thankful that we get to partner together, for which I know we all have the same goal, and that's to work on behalf of our constituents and the residents of the districts in which we represent, right? And so, of course, and obviously, as the location and the site of this shelter is in Santa Fe County, we know that that there's a need throughout. That the issue and the concern of homelessness is not just a Santa Fe County concern. It's not just Espanola, city of Espanola concern, or a Rio Arriba County concern, but but it's a humanitarian concern. And it affects our brothers and sisters who don't have a place to stay for the night. And so again, I'm proud and I'm thankful for the work that Commissioner Roybal and I have done in these few short months that I've been in office. Commissioner Roybal, to his credit, he's done so much more work these past years to partner with Rio Riba and to do the work on behalf of his constituents. And I know that we both have committed to continue that work for the good of the people. And so just as I close up here, you know, obviously like Ralph said, you know, we could continue on and on, but for the respect of your time, we see the need. We know that together we can make a positive difference, and we can make this a reality. And so we ask humbly and respectfully, we ask for your support, for your help in whichever way that you can. County Manager Miller, Chairman and Board of Commissioners, we thank you for your time. And again, we look forward to working together for the good of the people. So thank you and God bless.
Good. I think Jennifer, you were gonna.
I'll be brief, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Manager Miller. It's been an honor to work alongside this amazing team. I've served on several boards in the past, and this is a fast-moving train that has so much positive momentum. And I think to everything they said, I would echo the same, that it's been a positive light, if you will, in the community. And I think there's some excitement. I met Ralph through Overdose Prevention Education Initiative. He was chairing the Matanza, and we met that way, and it's been a pleasure to, and I think I, much like Mateo, just sat at the table and said, how can we work together? And then around that time, I came on board with Santa Fe County, so the match has been actually pretty good. So I'm excited to serve in whatever capacity I'm needed in.
Good. One of the purposes of wanting to come today is just talk about the services and introduce the project. Maybe at a future time, we can talk more about, you know, the nuts and bolts, and we're doing the schematic design work now for the facility. But mainly we want to talk about the services that are needed. And Commissioner Roybal was kind enough to bring Jennifer out and meet the board and talk about the initiatives with the navigators and different ways of tracking. And Amber has been on our board, and she was at Health and Human Services. And she's here as a board member, not representing Health and Human Services at this time. But as we move forward, we'll continue to work together with you know, your community services department. But there's an amazing collaboration going. You know, at our tables we have, you know, the Presbyterian hospitals there monitoring what's going on. They need help. Their emergency room fills up with people just trying to stay warm. You know, we have OI recovery. We have a huge collaboration happening. And again, we don't want to take up all your time. It's on the pamphlet as well. But it is truly phenomenal to see how the idea of the shelter has brought together so many different services that are looking for a place where we can pick people up off in their most dire moment of need and get them to the services that they need. So that's a major part of it. So I'll let you take it from there. Amber.
Hi, my name is Amber Lytle, and I'm the clinical director for Health and Human Services for Rio Riba County. And I've been working in the area for the last 20 years with the homeless, providing direct services myself with people with substance use disorders and with individuals with mental health disorders also. And I have personally driven people from Espanola to Joy Junction because that was the only bed available for somebody who was homeless and was going to be in the cold for the evening. So I understand the need for, you know, the services in our area. We have we're wanting to provide in some case management within the facility. I mean, there's other services that we want to provide, but I was very excited and thank you for allowing me, commissioners, to be here and members of management. I was very excited to meet with Commissioner Roybal and Jennifer about 2 weeks ago we talked about the services that are being provided in Santa Fe County, and Santa Fe County has a really strong hub and spoke system that of providers that has over 30 providers, and I didn't realize that because I'm providing services in Rio Arriba County. We also have a hub and spoke model, but we've never talked to each other, and so this was the first time that we really talked to each other, and this is what even though I'm representing the board, I think that we need to collaborate these systems. We need to come together and figure out a way. If Rio Arriba County has 20 providers on their hub and spoke model, and Santa Fe County has a very strong over 30 providers on their hub and spoke model, then if we collaborate those systems, we have over 50 providers who the Pathways Shelter can then utilize that system. And wherever somebody is in their process of homelessness or substance use disorder, if we have those resources available, then we can utilize them. And so I'm just very excited to be here as a board member. And I'm a little nervous because this is not normally what I do. So sorry for not thanking you from the beginning, so yeah, that's all. I look forward for us working together, for Rio Arriba County and Santa Fe, because I think together we are stronger and we can provide a great deal of services to individuals in need, whatever services they deem they want. So.
Great. And go ahead.
Oh, no, whoever.
I just wanted to put out there for the record too that that it be known that in this past year that we've been working on this, we've vetted 19 different properties and locations and used process of elimination to get to the one that we're currently looking at. And it's very strategic, right, according to the need. And so we looked at it like that. And like both Amber and Matthew and Matt Mateo both said, it's more than just a shelter. When we went to visit St. Elizabeth's, Edward and St. Elizabeth's, we fell in love with their model, and we're looking at mirroring that model with some incorporation of like the Taos Men's Shelter, and there was a lot of different shelters that we went to go visit. I've been in homeless shelters, but I didn't know how one was ran. I knew like the rules inside the shelter, but I didn't know how one was ran. So it was a really big learning experience. I know for me, and looking to see what would best suit our community, our people in our community. And so I just wanted to put that out there, that we've taken the time to look at many different places, many different properties. We've taken our time to go to many different shelters that have been in existence for a while, and we've taken of the good and left behind the bad, and we've taken those goods and implemented them in what we call now Pathways, which is more than just a shelter, but a pathway hopefully out of circumstances that individuals may find themselves in.
And I was just gonna add real quickly, when we get the questions, just to let you know where we're at. We are, our fiscal agent is the Coalition to End Homelessness. So Hank is our fiscal manager. We are incorporated, but we don't have our 501c3 yet, and that's fine. We're perfectly happy working with Hank and the crew there. Daniel Montoya is our startup manager. He's an attorney here in Espanola, and in Santa Fe, and he's been helping us along all the way, and so we've got contracted him to help us get our policies and procedures, and he's reviewing our lease right now, and that, so we're pretty well established. Marisol Atkins has also been a consultant with us. She's the one who got all our paperwork in order and helped get our board together, and we'll be putting out a job announcement shortly for an executive director. So we got a lot of things moving. We have some grant writers helping us, looking for federal grants and stuff. But as Ralph mentioned, that startup money from the state has been huge, because we don't have to ask for programmatic money. But so that's just been an amazing win in our sales.
And one more add in to that,
and then we'll go for questions.
Yeah, one more add into that is the money that we got appropriated, the $225,000 has been appropriated for operational funds. And so we're allowed, to use that to operate the program, but it's not, you know, brick and mortar, nuts and bolts, you know, money, and so just to put that on the table. Yes.
So Commissioner Roybal and also just so you know, Commissioner Garcia had some questions.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And thanks again for you guys being here. One thing I did neglect to say earlier, and I should have, and I apologize to Rachel, is our human service director is actually here, and she had a conflict the day that we met, and Jennifer went to represent the county.
Yes.
But Rachel O'Connor is our human services director, and so you know, I'm hoping I hope that we can figure out a way how Santa Fe County can collaborate and work together as we've discussed, and I think it could be a huge huge impact on the city of Espanola and the residents that we do have there. I think that we're always gonna see pieces here and there where somebody may not think that's the best location for a shelter. You always do, or for whatever other reason, you'll see that. But I think ultimately the way that we need to go is the way we are going, and you guys are doing a great job, and you know, you guys have a great board. So I appreciate you guys being here, but I know I wanna turn it over to my other commissioners and listen to their to what they want to ask questions about it. But the other thing is, you know, this is just a preliminary, just a snapshot of how we're moving forward, but we really wanna see what we can do to help with in the future as we move forward. So this is just a quick presentation to the board, and so you get a good idea of what they're working on and how we're moving forward, so thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Garcia?
Just really good, Commissioner, Deputy Treasurer, the board, actually fabulous energy. You could just feel it, and what a great project for somebody that lived in Espanola when I was about 47 years ago. My father's family still lives in Espanola. My cousin's husband was an ex-county commissioner there. He's a school board member, but I can certainly understand what happens in Espanola. It's like I said, the energy that y'all have, that's good. That's something that I just get like chills. That's really cool. The collaboration is a good word, like you said. That's something that I think I always have this in my head, that when you cross the city line, the county line, or another county line, it's all in one community, right? It's just this line thing needs to get rid of everybody's mentality. I think some of the things you have some great individuals on your board here. She actually worked for Congressman Ben Ray, and I don't know if there's ever some federal funding out there that the deputy treasurer can actually tap into. That's actually a great thing that you all might want to look into. We have two fabulous legislators, Senator Richard Martinez, very respectable guy in the community, as well as at the roundhouse there. Representative Joseph Sanchez, actually I see in the back here. He actually probably has passion and cares about this project as well. We could like those two individuals do, those two legislators. And as the deputy treasurer said, this thing's moving fast. And that's actually a good thing when things are moving fast in a positive, great way. And you guys really have schematic designs going on, and it's just great job. Keep moving forward, because that's great. Good job.
Thank you. Commissioner Haslund. Thank you so much for the presentation. Deputy Treasurer, Commissioner, it's really good to see you again. It's, I feel very strongly that, we are fortunate to be in the positions that we're in, and it is really our job to help those that are less fortunate. And so I am really happy to see something like this happening in Espanola. It is so important to give people a pathway, and so the name is really appropriate. I think that I think working together, all of us, is really important as commissioners. Where the river flows, the river doesn't know the boundary of whether it's in Espanola or Santa Fe County. Water doesn't know that, and a lot of our homeless people don't always know that either. And so it's important that we help. So thank you, Commissioner Roybal, for bringing this forward also.
Yeah, I'm very impressed at the need for something like this. My husband's from Espanola, and I feel, so everybody has, it's really funny, we had another meeting with something, and it was like, everybody has a connection to Espanola, so there must be something magical about it, but actually, you know some people, it's one of those things, if a problem's so big that you know people whose, family or friends are homeless or have had these kinds of problems in their lives. Has nothing to do, I would say 99% is due to our luck. It's circumstances, many of which we don't have control over, but we can help each other. And it's just, you don't see as many examples of people doing that. And this is an amazing, I'm really impressed and grateful that you're doing it. So thank you for doing your presentation, because now we know about something about what's going on, and I know Commissioner Roybal will follow through directly. So you have several county connections already, and you just have some future connections.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just keep in mind, they all talk about oil and gas money that's coming into the state of New Mexico, so like I said, Senator Martinez and Representative Sanchez.
Commissioner, if I might, thank you for the suggestion. I hadn't thought about the federal programs that may apply also, so remind me. I'll get that done.
Yes.
So, yeah, he already said my name, Daniel Montoya, and I am an attorney here and in New York, actually. I worked for 13 years as a lawyer in New York City before I came back to New Mexico in '97. And I got pulled into this project in a way by my brother, Roger Montoya. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's nominated as a CNN hero right now. So he couldn't be here. So he couldn't be here because he's getting an award from the mayor of Espanola tonight. So he had a conflict last minute. So on his behalf, I do want to say that him and Ralph have been amazing. I've watched it from the sidelines for a long time and then got more involved in the last few weeks. Just how passionate they are about it, and then going to meetings and seeing the people involved. This is a very small segment of the group that's involved. Last night there was a fundraising meeting and there were 15 people who showed up just kind of last minute. Let's talk about strategized fundraising. And everybody was throwing out ideas and experiences, and it was really exciting to watch. I was really impressed by, just like you said, the energy of this group is really powerful, and I think it's actually reflective of a bigger movement that's happening in Rio Arriba in terms of the development of support systems in that community as well. So we're hoping that will expand and broaden across all of New Mexico as they see and are proud of what happens. And if you're watching CNN on December 8th, Roger might win, and that would be really another boost to hear him give a speech live on TV about Espanola and New Mexico. So we're pretty proud of this whole effort, and Mateo jumped in and has been amazing. Joseph, everybody really here has taken on tasks that probably they didn't know how to do, what to do, when to do, and everybody has really just stepped up in ways that I'm very impressed with. And I've worked with many people in my career, and I've probably never seen a group as committed as this in all the tasks I've undertaken. I even started Task Community Foundation when I first moved here, and that was a good group, but this one, I'm just blown away by the commitment. This will not fail. I can guarantee you that. So whatever resources there are, support there is, this is gonna happen, and there's no doubt in my mind that we will be successful in supporting those people who need it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And if I may, Madam Chair, so we've had 2 great meetings, as Commissioner Roybal said, and there's a third one scheduled, I think, for November 22nd, where we'll be meeting with economic development personnel from the city, Rio Arriba County, and Santa Fe County. So we'll be brainstorming there on how to, put this all together and what funding opportunities there are and employment opportunities and so on. So we're hoping to get back on your agenda, perhaps even for the meeting 2 weeks from now, and present our actual designs for the facilities and give you more information about the building where it's housed and talk about some of those economic development opportunities.
That would be great. Make sure you remind him
Yes.
when you
Yes.
actually better than his liaison.
Yes, Orlando's been great. He's on
Because
task.
there are deadlines, but we have
Yeah.
a meeting in November and a meeting in December, so there's a sure we can get to on the agenda.
Great, cause we're all, I'm a contractor, so I tend to think inside of the box. And so, and we won't, it's getting cold, so we really wanna get things done, and we really appreciate your time so much.
So great, thank you so much. Thank you.
I just wanna say, also reiterate that, I'm not saying on public record because, we are taking minutes and also it's recorded and just say that, as the Commissioner for District 1, I'm 100% committed to helping you guys succeed. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Always remember, Commissioner, there's free parking back there next time you go.
Sorry, I have something in my eye.
That's good. So Commissioner, do you have your site there? Okay, so
You don't have a quorum.
I'm sorry?
No quorum.
I understand I'm not conducting business, I'm asking you to have the person or whether we're going to table it.
Table.
Do you wanna table it?
Or what? He should be here? If he's coming, we can
We can
wait.
table it.
No, he's not
coming, so we
coming.
can table it.
I'm sorry. Okay,
I didn't know if you wanted to table it or just do it for the record.
oh,
We'll table for the record.
I thought he had asked that, that's right, I will do either, I'm happy to do either. Okay, guys.
Well, when you get a quorum, maybe we can table it for the record. This allows a lot of social.
I see that problem now, because they don't have to walk off the dais, like, I was really saying how much I enjoyed the fact that we're eye to eye with everybody. But it's, yeah,
It's conducive to socializing.
yes, and this is a problem, it's like, talk to them on your own time.
Well, what if you guys sat here? Okay, that way.
Okay.
Okay,
No, do not leave, we have a quorum now.
Oh.
So.
Okay, wait a second, wait.
My understanding is that for matter
Back on.
B, that Jose Varela Lopez is not present.
Is not coming?
Well, he's just not here.
Oh, okay.
And apparently he's not coming tonight. So, Commissioner, do you want to?
Madam Chair, move for table, motion for table.
I'll second.
Thank you. So, we have a motion and a second to table 8B, all in favor?
Aye.
So that takes us to 8A. Do any commissioners have issues, comments, updates?
I just be quick, this morning I had a really great talk, at the NACO Arts and Culture, Commission meeting on the phone, and we talked about, art and recovery. And so that's gonna be one of the topics at the legislative conference in Washington DC on NACO. So we will be talking about how, and which falls right into where we were just listening to, art and recovery and how that can really affect people. I also attended the Rio Grande Water Fund meeting last week. And I also attended the Radioactive and Hazardous Waste Material Committee, where there was reports on numerous different issues related to radioactive waste. WIP was talked about, the plutonium pit production at Los Alamos was talked about, and the consent decree was talked about for the 2016 consent cleanup, which definitely concerns the Buckman direct diversion. So it was a very enlightening meeting with legislators. And that's all I have, just a quick little update.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, I actually, went to that same meeting of the legislative committee on radioactive waste. It was very worthwhile. And had another monthly coffee with the commission at the beginning of the month, and it was well attended. It seems to be a very successful forum for getting people's real concerns And also updates on what's going on in the district. Commissioner Garcia, you were out, do you have any updates?
No.
So that would take us to matters from other elected officials. Madam Clerk, do you have anything?
Yes. What I have to share is a bunch of thank yous to all of you, so thank you for our new office, for approving our increase in budget from the clerk's filing fund to purchase our much needed fixtures to maintain and preserve public records. Thank you for opening and closing our canvass for the new and historic 2019 regular local election, which turned out to be a massive challenge in many ways for every county clerk in the state and for the Secretary of State. But we worked so well together that we did what we needed to do. Also, thank you to my staff for all their hard work to maintain the operations of the clerk's office during the move and for all their hard work to complete our election duties, which are many duties, and we finished yesterday with the absentee board after 6 o'clock at the warehouse yesterday. And so you were able to approve the canvass at the county level, and now that goes to the state. And it's the Secretary of State's process to now canvass that, and we've also heard that there's a potential recount, so we'll have to deal with that also, and probably the auditor that the state Secretary of State's office hires may also give us some portions of the election that we need to audit. And thank you to all of our poll workers and our absentee board for helping us with this election also. So have a good evening, and I want to thank also all of the voters in Santa Fe County who participated. My goal was that we at least would have had 15,000 voters. We actually had over 17,000. My dream was that Santa Fe County voters would have been out there at 25,000. That didn't happen, but that's okay. 17,000 I think is pretty good. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, well, I was gonna ask that question if we had more voters, so I'm glad that you actually mentioned that. I think that's great. And what do you think is a contributing factor for that? Do you think it is the convenience voting station, or?
I think there's multiple factors. I think the voting convenience centers, I think the local journalists really helped me to get the word out. They communicated with me and stated, we wanna help you get the word out. And we did a lot of advertising. For some people, that's never enough. But I was on the radio stations, and also the advertising, I think, helped tremendously. What I didn't see as much, but it did happen, the candidates also motivate voters. So candidates need to go out there and talk to voters and encourage them to participate. And the more competition we have within a race, the better, because it informs people. I think that's important. So it was different, and we did our part. Santa Fe County, I believe we rocked. We really did.
Yeah.
I believe so. And I know the city of Santa Fe, this was new for them, letting go of the election. But I think this is what we do in Santa Fe County. We deal with massive elections when you think about it. County-wide, we're land massive when it comes to looking at the differences between a city and a county. There's more involved. And the ruralness, where my staff and poll workers have to manage further north and further south. Those rural areas are a challenge also. And I was able to go out to a lot of them on election day, and to be able to talk to voters and the poll workers and get ideas. And I do plan in the future to bring the Secretary of State, our vendors who provide our voting machines and our ballot on demand systems, and some of our absentee board members and poll workers, along with some of my staff. We need to have a work group to discuss, how we can even perfect even more. As you all know, that my last day is December 31st, 2020, so I have a lot to accomplish in these last months, more than a year. And throughout my work as county clerk, there's been many things that we've done, my staff and I, and I appreciate all of the support from the board and from County Manager Miller, because there's always been a lot of support when it comes to elections. And I truly appreciate that, because along with you and me, we continue what we're all about, the democracy, part of this foundation that elections are important. So thank you, and to all the citizens of Santa Fe County.
Madam Clerk, I just wanna say on behalf of the Commissioner of District One, I just wanna say thank you for all your hard work, and I'd like for you to extend my gratitude to your staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that brings us to matters from the county attorney.
Madam
No.
Chair, could we do the public hearing first?
Of course, great idea, thank you so much.
I don't know where they are, but.
Oh,
Right in that back room there.
so we'll go right
Let's
to
go
11
around
because
the
it's
block.
after 5, to do the public hearing.
We just have the one.
Yeah, so I know there's a delay, if you hear this, come on up, and I think we're coming to get you. We know where you live.
Thank you. We're exhausted.
Thank you, there they
I
are.
forgot to thank our attorney. She was working with me Saturday and Sunday.
Do we have anybody else?
Oh, yeah.
The applicant is coming now.
I know.
That's very easy. Hi, so we're here to do a public hearing for the Pantry Restaurant. Jose, why don't you jump right in for me?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Case number 19-5230, the Pantry Restaurant Dos LLC Beer and Wine Liquor License. The Pantry Restaurant Dos LLC applicant requests approval of a beer and wine liquor license. The property is located at 20 White Feather Road and is zoned as a new community center sub-district within the PD1 Community College District within Section 16, Township 16 North, Range 9 East, Commission District 5. Pantry Restaurant Dos completed construction in 2019, and the applicant was issued a county business license to operate the restaurant on September 20th, 2019. The applicant is requesting approval of a beer and wine liquor license to serve beer and wine with meals at the Pantry Restaurant Dos. The property is located in the Ashara subdivision in the new community center zone on White Feather Road. The zoning for this property is regulated by ordinance number 2016-9, the Sustainable Land Development Code, Chapter 8, Section 8.10.3, Plan District, Santa Fe Community College District. This site is zoned as a new community center sub-district within the PD1 Community College District. Table 8.44 CCD use table illustrates the uses allowed within the above-mentioned zoning district, subject to all other applicable standards of the SLDC. The CCD use table allows for a restaurant with incidental consumption of alcoholic beverages as a permitted use within the new community center sub-district. The State Alcoholic Beverage Control Division granted preliminary approval of this request in accordance with Section 60-6B-4 NMSA of the Liquor Control Act. The Liquor Control Act requires the local option district to conduct a public hearing on the request to grant a restaurant beer and wine liquor license at this location. In accordance with the Liquor Control Act, the BCC may disapprove the issuance of the license if the location is within 300 feet of any church or school. The issuance would be in violation of zoning or an ordinance, or the issuance would be detrimental to public health, safety, or morals of the residents of the local option district. Legal notice of this request has been published in accordance with the Liquor Control Act by publishing notice before the hearing twice in the Santa Fe New Mexican on October 13, 2019 and October 28, 2019. Growth management staff has reviewed this request for compliance with pertinent code requirements and finds the following facts to support the submittal. The CCD use table 8.44 allows the requested use. The applicant has met the state of New Mexico requirements for noticing. The site is 2,112 feet from the nearest church and 2,640 feet from the nearest school. Staff recommendation is approval of a restaurant beer and wine liquor license to be located at 20 White Feather Road. And I stand for any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So at this point, before I open it for public comment, are there any questions? Good, we'll go right to public comment. But I don't quite know how to handle the fact that it's potential for public in a conference room. Is there anybody here from the public that wants to come and address the board with respect to this particular matter? I'm sorry?
Madam Chair, will you also hear from the applicant?
Yes, we also will, thank you. I'm just.
There's nobody in the conference rooms, I just.
You've already looked, thank you very much. So, as the applicant, would you care to say something? Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Obviously, we're excited to we've already begun, business. And the neighbors and everybody are clamoring for, beer and wine during the dinner hour and things like that. So I think it will be a great addition to what we're doing, and we're excited to kind of roll that next phase out so we can, build up what we've already begun.
Tell us your name, please.
Michael Singley.
Thank you.
That was for the record. Good. So, do I close public comment before I take questions from the board? Seeing nobody else here from the public, and thank you for your input, I'm gonna close public comment. Commissioner Hansing and then Commissioner Rojan. And then Commissioner Rojan.
So, I am so thrilled to see this finally open. In 2007, I worked at Oshara Village as part of the entitlement and development team. And it was our dream to have a pantry restaurant there. So I am so happy to see you there. So
Nice.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We're glad to be there.
I look forward to coming and eating and enjoying the view. It's a nice community, and thank you for building the restaurant, and thank you for improving the neighborhood.
Of course, yeah, it's our pleasure. It's been a fun project.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Roybal.
I just wanna ditto the comments. I think pantry restaurant will be I haven't been there in a while. You guys have 2 locations or?
We have one right there on Cerrillos, and then this is our second, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I've eaten at the one in Cerrillos, so it's gonna be neat to have another option, so I'll have to come see the new place, so
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
I think that you made a motion, is that correct?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We're waiting for, so Commissioner Moreno.
Yeah, finally.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Welcome to the Big Five.
Thank you.
District 5 is growing like nobody's business, and you have a good a lot of people will you'll have a lot of people in that area, and good for you and good for us, and thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
I've already been told I should go out there, so people have
Nice.
already been going there.
Alright.
And
Just saying.
can I?
By all
make a
means, I
motion?
thought you were, yes, please.
I
Make a motion.
Move to.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, he moves to approve, so I have a motion from Commissioner Moreno for
Second.
approval and a second. And if there's no
A
further
third.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any, that was 4 ayes, I'm not even asking. Thank you very much,
So
congratulations.
congratulations,
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I look forward to coming out there,
Alright, well, we'll be looking for you guys. Thank you.
yeah.
Good luck with it.
Thank you.
So now, if I think it takes us back to number 10 matters from the county attorney.
Madam Chair, thank you. I'd ask that you go into executive session pursuant to section 10:15(1)(h)(8) of the Open Meetings Act for the purpose of discussing acquisition or disposal of real property, and specifically acquisition of real property for county fairgrounds expansion.
Great.
And we're gonna move to the conference room right down the hall.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion,
So moved.
second? I have a motion, a second, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair Hamilton,
Yes.
Chair, Commissioner Roybal,
Yes.
Commissioner Moreno,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
He seems to have stepped out.
Commissioner Hanson.
Yes.
Thank you.
So we are in executive session, we won't have any subsequent business, so we won't be
Can we
coming
leave
back.
things here?
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have to pick them up.